Hey, guys, this is Timebreaker Saiyan here, and welcome to my channel. Today I am doing Fairy Tale Rids R.D.K.
Chapter 1. Makarov Dryer III, sixth and, unsurprisingly, the ninth master for the Wizard Guild Fairy Tale, sat behind his desk, with tears running down his eyes. Why, may you ask? It was because no matter what he tried, he couldn't seem to defeat his most hated enemy. Paperwork. He had tried everything he could imagine. Fire, lightning, ice, Natsu's own fire, stains, shredding, his own magic, and even then, nothing would overcome his nemesis. Why, just why was he being punished like this? Was this God's way of saying he had won the war even after all these years? As he was pondering on ideas to overcome his most hated enemy, his office door opened to reveal his beautiful model child, in name, and waitress Mira Jane Strauss, walking in with a pile of paperwork in her hands, causing the elderly man to whimper in sadness at the sight. Was he being punished by some unforeseen forces somehow? Not even the other masters had this amount of paperwork to fill out and were able to have at least some form of free time for themselves by lunch. Mirajan gave a gentle smile. "Here you go, master. I'm bringing in the last of the paperwork for today," she said as she sat down the pile of papers on his desk. Makarov sniffled a bit. "Thank you, Mira-chan," he said politely, but in truth he was clearly upset. He still had this amount of paperwork to fill out. As he grabbed one of the papers to look it over, the man was suddenly engulfed by a bright red light. Makarov felt himself panicking. Mira, what's happening to me?" he cried out in shock. Mira Jane ran over to her master to try and see what was wrong with him, only to be enveloped by the same light. "Master, it's happening to me too," she cried out, and in a span of 10 seconds, both were whisked away to an unknown place, while all across the land, several important people were taken along for the ride. Makarov felt his eyes slowly open from having passed out. As he slowly got used to the light, he saw that all around him were wizards and other prominent people and other types of powerful beings. A hand being placed on his shoulder almost made him jump in surprise, but when he saw who it was, he actually jumped in joy. "Mira-chan!" he exclaimed before he enveloped her into a hug that threatened to smother the young beauty. "Master, you smothering me," she said as her master drew back. When the man managed to finally calm down, they looked around to try and figure out where they were. In the end, they came to the solitary conclusion: they had absolutely no idea where they were. They couldn't use their magic. They couldn't teleport. They were stuck. Truthfully, it made an incredibly large portion of them freak out by this knowledge, and it was during this commotion that a bright light was shown. "What's that?" Levy said in confusion. When it died down, it was revealed to be a set of 3 things: a table, a book, and finally, a note for them. Makarov gulped nervously as he picked up the note, expecting it to blow up, only to see that it had something written on it. Mirajan, seeing that her master wasn't in trouble, walked up next to him, picked up the book, and read the title aloud, R.D.K. She read with a confused look. "Okay. I hate to do it, but somebody has to ask, what kind of title is that?" she asked in confusion. Makarov cleared his throat. "I think it's because of this," he said, waving the note around a bit before he was bombarded with questions. When everyone managed to shut up, "Thanks no part to Natsu himself, you for that, by the way, boy," he read the note. It says, "Members of the fairy tale world, this story you are about to read, aptly called The Redemption of the Dragon King, is something we have been stalling for too long. Enjoy, for there are things that even you do not know of yet that will come to light. Sincerely, Anonymous." "That is all," he said. Gray crossed his arms. "Well, that's just creepy. Somebody brought us here, and they didn't even tell us who they are or even give a specific reason as to why they brought us here," he said with a huff. Makarov held up a hand. Now, We mustn't get upset. I'm sure whoever brought us here had a specific reason as to why they did," he said as he opened the book and cleared his throat. "Since I picked up the book, I'll go first to get it out the way," he said as he has begun to read. An Unexpected Reunion Acnologia. The first word of the story is the name of that monster. I already hate it," Kana muttered as she grabbed a bottle of booze. Natsu shrugged his shoulders. "Even if he was a deranged, psychotic jerk, I still have respect for him and his power. He definitely earned his title of Dragon King," he said with a wide grin. "You only say that because you were the one to beat him, Salamander," Gajeel muttered. Watches the scene below him in morbid fascination as Tenro Island completely vanishes thanks to his breath attack. Acnologia was a truly terrifying beast to behold. He was around 50 meters tall. The top half of his body was covered in black, armored scales. He had 4 horns protruding from the sides of his head, extending backward. The front of his head was round and blunt. His eyes were white and beady. His mouth housed razor-sharp teeth, and his chin protruded into the shape of an arrowhead. His wings were black and had a feathery appearance to them, like a bird's. His underbelly, inner tail, and legs were all a dull gray color. His tail was long and ended in the shape of a sharp dual-pronged stinger. The most distinguishing feature was the blue tribal markings that covered the top half of his body. "Oh yeah, that's him all right. Can't ever forget such a menace," Jet growled out. "Is it just me, or is he a bit bigger than the one we know?" Droy asked. A recently acknowledged pregnant Levy sighed as she rubbed her nose. "No, that would be just his regular size. Be glad it wasn't him after he ate the time rift." She muttered, "Gajeel, get me some cupcakes. I'm craving sweets. Also don't forget the sour candies as well," she demanded, as Gajeel stiffened and sulked as he went to do as he was told. Hey, that little pipsqueak could be scary if she wanted to. The black dragon had originally come to the island sensing the black mage, Zeref, was on it. That's strange. Why would he be looking for Zeref of all people? I thought he was a mindless monster when we saw him, Lucy said in confusion. If you'd all quit interrupting, I'm sure we'd find out, Erza said loudly. Yes, ma'am, Lucy squeaked. He wanted to kill the worthless human for the sins committed against him 400 years ago. Sorry, last interruption, but that line just revealed a whole new list of questions I wanted answered, Gray muttered as he looked at the twitching redhead. I know, and they will be answered. Later, though. You may continue, Master, Erza said with a nod as she munched on a strawberry cheesecake slice. Sadly, fate was not too kind as Zeref had disappeared already, but he did get something out of this trip. He found a wizard guild on the island, and of all the guilds, it had to be the one founded by that brat, Mavis. He knows the Shodai, is that even possible? Mira Jane asked in wonder. Maybe it was just through a passing, Lisana said. Hopefully Acnologia is just too manly to try and fight one-on-one. Elfman shuddered. Plus, he saw the human. He fought a few months ago, too. Now that he thinks about it, only one of Mavis's brats would have the guts to face him in mortal combat, though fight would be the biggest understatement since it only lasted for about 3 minutes. Still, for a human to last that long deserves some praise. It was one of the reasons he spared him and not outright killed him on the spot. Now he had several other mages to have fun with. They even had 3 dragon slayers. Well, 4, if that artificial one was included. So he can tell the difference between an actual and an artificial dragon slayer. I didn't know that, Laxus hummed in thought. Maybe he knew all along, he just didn't voice it, Freed said. I doubt it. This is Acnologia, remember? All he wanted was to kill Laxus and the other dragon slayers, or did you forget? Bixlow said to the smart man. Unfortunately, he soon saw that these dragon slayers were laughably weak. Compared to the slayers and mages of his age, these guys were pathetic. Okay, now he's rubbing salt into the wound. We know we can't match up to him, and it took all 7 of us giving Natsu our magic and you guys trapping him at the same time just to beat him," Gajeel growled out. "It's okay, Gajeel. That's over now," Levi said in a calming tone to the Dragon Slayer. It was a major shame that the first generation of Dragon Slayer magic would die out with her friends. "Yep. Now the future belongs to mankind," Lily said with a smile. Then again, none of these mages ever experienced war, so it was kinda expected that none would have the capacity that the others had. Plus, it looked like they were recovering from a fierce battle, but even that factor would not have changed the outcome much. However, he did get some entertainment from the master of the guild. Being able to increase his height and be able to hold him off for so long for his children to escape was an impressive feat. However, surprise, surprise. The brats ignored his plea and came back at full force, engaging Acnologia in combat. "He makes it sound so depressing when he says it like that," Gray muttered. "Juvia agrees, Gray-sama," Juvia said. "But of course there is the voice of reason for the ice user." "Gee, thanks, Juvia," Gray said with a sulk. "Gray-sama is welcome." Juvia cheered. The dragon had to mentally shake his head at this. Why was he not surprised? Humanity really was one stubborn species. "Damn right, we are," Bacchus called out from where he was listening. "Wild," the rest of Sedman's guild cried out. "Seems Bacchus is here as well. Funny I didn't see him," Erza commented with a smile. "No matter how hard you put them down, they just keep coming back up like roaches." Though he must admit these humans were entertaining him more than he had anticipated. Hell, the 3 dragon slayers managed to push him into the sea. This piqued his interest ever slightly, and he decided to test the brats and see if they would be worthy of his attention in the future. He rose from the sea and prepared to launch a breath attack upon them. The mages then began gathering their magic together when his attack was launched. At the last moment, a sphere appeared blocking the attack. However, the collision caused a massive explosion to erupt from the chain reaction. Now, as Acnologia looks at the emptiness where the island once stood, he senses a large magical energy below the surface of the sea. The dragon chuckles in amusement. "So they survived, huh? Those humans are a tenacious bunch. I will give them that." "So he was testing us. What for?" Happy asked in confusion. "Maybe for our future fight against him?" "You never can be too sure with Acnologia," Carla said with a shrug. He looks around and no longer senses Zeref. The dragon growls at this since he was hoping to end that immortal's miserable existence for good, but it seems he is having too much fun. Seems he doesn't have a vendetta against us as humans, but rather Zeref." "Interesting." "How very interesting," Evergreen said in thought. "I hadn't thought that there would be a version of Acnologia who resented your brother Natsu," Gray said, having heard how he was supposedly related to Zeref. "Yeah," Natsu nodded dumbly. "Oh, well, it wasn't a total loss. He got to have a little fun, something he hasn't had in a very long time. He decided it was time to leave and return to his lair on Mount Zonia. He flaps his large black wings and sets off to the horizon. While he flies back home, he remembers a time when he was once human like everyone else, one who fought with the same tenacity and loyalty for his fellow comrades. "What?" All the humans and the cats cried out in shock. "Is that even possible?" Jura asked from his seat. I can't answer that," Makarov said as he picked the book back up, having dropped it in shock as he read the words. He was loud, brash, and idiotic like that fire dragon slayer. But he was betrayed by the very people he fought for, and those he thought he could trust just left him behind as he was slowly tortured and rotted away until he was finally executed. That's so sad. And he was such a nice man when he began his journey." Elfman wept. "Man!" a certain troll cried, causing the resident red-headed knight to shiver. "Why would they execute him? Did he do something he wasn't supposed to do that they considered bad?" Erza asked in shock. Says it'll be revealed later in the story, but it says to expect to get angry at the explanation. Makarov read on the side note. Clearing his throat, he continued. What was his name? It had been so long that he became forgetful of his old. Bots. Ruto. Menma. Naruto. That was his name. Naruto Uzumaki, future Hokage of Konoha. Believe it. He chuckles in amusement as he remembers his old catchphrase. Mirajan gives a giggle. It is cute if you think about it. I wonder what caused him to change. She asked herself in wonder. That was what he used to scream at everyone. It was his idea that if he became the Hokage, then everyone would begin to look up to him. It was only when he was imprisoned that he realized how foolish that dream really was. They would never accept him no matter what he did for them. They would always see him as a demon, which was really ironic, considering what he is now. I didn't know he had it so rough as he did, Laxus muttered. Yeah, I actually feel bad for the guy, Gajeel said in sympathy. I'm curious as to how he survived, Natsu said curiously. Poor guy had to endure torture, Wendy said sadly. What's a Hokage? Lily asked. It doesn't say, Makarov answered quickly as he continued. Plus, needing to become the strongest to get everyone to see you and accept you was a foolish goal. People either saw the real you from the very beginning, or they saw what they wanted to see. Sadly, only one person saw him for what he truly was. A sad little boy that wanted to be accepted, to be loved. The one girl that did this for him, but he never noticed, or was it that he couldn't accept her? She was the only one to try and visit him in prison for comfort and not to scorn him. It was when she confessed her love to him that he felt truly happy in a long time and at peace at his impending doom. They made a promise to one another on that day that they swore to honor for the rest of their lives. Ooh, it's a forbidden romance. I love it. Bacchus cried out happily as he raised his gourd into the air. Huh, I did not expect that, Elfman told himself. Nah, he just likes a good story, Erza said with a smile. Sadly, Naruto, or Acnologia, now had long forgotten that promise after everything he went through in his second life. He wondered how the girl's life was, and if she was strong like she promised, she would become. Part of him wished he could see her again, but he had no way of going back to his old world on his own. Wait, world? Is he from Adalas or something? Wendy asked in shock. Hold on, let me continue, Makarov said, hoping it would be answered. Perhaps one of the dragons would help him? However, he rid himself of that idea as quickly as it came. None of the dragons nor any of their allies would help him with anything he asked of them, especially after the slaughter he caused 400 years ago. Well, at least he knows that they would be wary of him. I wouldn't blame them, though, Kana said as she took a sip of her booze. Well, since Zeref is the one he's after, maybe he forced the transformation on him unwillingly this time, Lucy said in thought. Nah, several members said at the same time. He won't deny that part of him enjoyed the death and destruction he caused, but not all of it was his fault. That is true. My mother explained to me the problems that came with those who become a dragon slayer, Erza said. I'm still shocked at how she was the creator of dragon slayer magic, Wendy muttered, causing Natsu and Gajeel to do a spit take at what they heard. However, it was pointless to argue who's to blame and regret. He did wonder, though, why none of the elders or the deities of the dragon race have done anything to stop him. Probably because he is too strong even for them, Sting said from the crowd. Maybe not. He did say deities of the dragon race. They must be either extremely lenient or just don't care he slaughtered the dragons. Rogue commented in thought. That could be true. Sting hummed in agreement. Perhaps going to them, he may get an answer. However, before he could allow himself to ponder any further, a flash of light appeared before him, blinding his line of sight. He growls at whoever is foolish enough to surprise him. Who dares come before Acnologia, the Dragon King? Acnologia got no answer as the light got brighter before it enveloped his entire form. When Acnologia finally regains his sight, he sees nothing but an endless white void around him. He growls in annoyance. "Who has called me here? Show yourself, you coward!" "I wouldn't leave him waiting. It usually ends with worldly destruction," Erza commented. "Yep," was the unified agreement. "Who the hell are you? You look like an overgrown lizard," roared a voice behind him. "Okay, who wanted to die?" Minerva said in annoyance. "Not something you want to call the guy who can destroy the world on his own?" Sting muttered in annoyance. He looks behind and is shocked at who was yelling at him. The first person was a woman with a slender and feminine build. She stood at 5'4". She had blood-red hair that went down to her ankles with 2 shoulder-length bangs on each side of her face. There was one black hair clip on the left side of her head. She had violet eyes and a light complexion. She was wearing a high-collar white blouse under a loose-fitting green dress. She looked rather annoyed. The other was a tall, tan man that stood at 5'9". He had spiky, blonde hair. His eyes were a deep shade of blue. He wore a long-sleeved blue sweat shirt with 2 red swirls on the sides of his arm. On top of that, he wore a light green vest with 6 pockets on the front. The most noticeable attire he had on was the white, short-sleeved cloak with the fire patterns at the bottom. The man was trying to calm the woman down. The third shocked him the most, and who he paid the most attention to. She was standing at 5'4". She wore a light lavender, sleeveless kimono-style blouse with vertical lines. It was tied with a violet obi around her waist. She had short, dark navy pants with thigh-high stockings, along with black high-heel boots. Her hair was a dark blue with a heim cut at the front while reaching past her waist. She had 2 bangs that reached her chin. The most noticeable thing was her eyes. They were pupilless and had a hint of lavender in them. "Okay, so he knows them if it shocks even Acnologia, or I guess Naruto to not be able to say anything," Laxus commented. "I guess the girl that looks blind was the girl who loved him. She's cute," Wendy said. "So who are the other people, the ones who betrayed him the most?" Gray said in confusion. "No, he holds too many similarities with them to be betrayed by those 2, Gildart said. "His parents?" Natsu muttered in shock. "The lady with red hair is gorgeous," Lucy said in stunned awe. The last occupant was a giant orange fox with 9 tails as large as the Dragon King in both height and as long in length as the dragon. His eyes never lose track of the dragon in front of him. "What is that?" Levy squeaked in terror. It's a monster!" Lector cried out as he hugged Sting. Acnologia could not believe what he was seeing. Before him were Kushina Uzumaki, Minato Namikaze, Hinata Hyuga, and the Kyuubi, or Kurama, as he told him before he died. "He died, but how is he alive in the story?" Jorah questioned. "Maybe the story will answer," Erza said. Suddenly a bright light appeared and vanished to show a large-scale television that would allow all of them to see what would transpire. Acnologia thought someone was playing some sick joke with him. Well, he was not in the mood for mind games. He opened his wings out and began to release his magical power in his rage, which put everyone on guard. The ground burst apart and began to float up into the air as immense pressure was released from his body. The world around was quivering in fear at the might of the world's most powerful dragon, and the sky itself had darkened in color. "All right, you had your fun. Now show yourself, you damn cowards. I'm in no mood for your trickery. Now reveal yourselves." "It would be wise to obey, and I don't think he is playing ether if the reaction to these guys appearing is an indication," Mira squeaked out as the picture was shown. "Hey, I was talking to you, you overgrown garden lizard. Listen to me when I am talking to Databani," Kushina screamed. "You don't just call the Dragon King a lizard without retribution against the following lady. It's not pretty," Natsu sighed. "And you would know how exactly?" Lucy asked. He doesn't, he just feels that since he beat Acnologia, he can call him that," Gajil said. Acnologia turns to look at Kushina with an annoyed scowl appearing on his face before pointing one of his claws at her. I have nothing to say to you, woman. Go take your blonde idiot of a husband and go fuck each other's brains out till you die. Since that is all you two can do, right? Fucking and dropping dead. Okay, that was rude, Lisanna said with narrowed eyes. There's probably a reason. Mira sighed out. There are children here, Romeo said, pointing to Asuka. She's heard worse at home. The parents muttered in embarrassment. Minato's and Hinata's jaws dropped at the insult, while Kurama was doing his best to bite back the laughter that was going to erupt. That all stopped when they all felt a dark aura and turned to see that Kushina was not amused at all. She was pissed off in every sense of the word. Her hair was split into 9 tails, and her face and eyes were red like her hair. She was out for blood and bloody hell. She will get it spilled. Ah! Many members of Fairy Tail screamed in horror. I know that look. It's the look Erza gets when she's mad, Natsu cried in terror. Shut up, you flame-brained idiot, or she'll kill us all, Gray screamed out. You bastard! Let's see if you can insult me after I have you caged down, she screams at him. Suddenly, several chains erupted from her body, heading straight for him. Knowing exactly what those chains can do, he takes to the air and begins evading them as much as possible to not get captured. Your chains may be able to capture a bijou, but let me make some things clear. I am no lizard, I am a dragon. Second, I am no bijou, so those chains are nothing more than a nuisance to me. He roared at her. Kushina got even more annoyed, but before she could retort, she felt pain all around her body before she collapsed on the floor. She and everyone else were shocked at who stopped her. It was Hinata Hyuga, standing above her with Byakugan blazing at her. What the hell, Hyuga girl? This is between me and the lizard, so stay— Wham! She was cut off when Hinata's foot slammed into her face. Kushina, let her go. Shut the hell up. We are in the middle of nowhere, and what does your wife do? She starts a fight with a creature with powers that we know nothing about. For all we know, he could be equal to, if not greater than, Kurama. That is actually a good point, Wendy said with a pointed finger. Hey, Wendy, doesn't she have your facial features? Carla asked, as she looked at the young woman. The current Wendy's picture appeared followed by the unknown girls. Before a large X appeared on Wendy's own showing, she was wrong. Never mind, Carla said with a shrug. That's debatable, Hinata, Kurama growled. Whatever, we need to calm down and think this through. Can we all please do that? She urged everyone. No one argued with her before turning to the dragon above them. Dragon-sama, may you please come down to talk. I promise if she speaks again, I will personally cut her down. Kushina growled at the bar but stayed silent. Acnologia looked at the girl in wonder. This was not the same girl he had seen before his execution. Looks like she has kept her promise to me after all, he thought in amusement. So he does know her, huh? I wonder what the promise was, Erza said. If you'd be quiet, we'd find out, Mira said, firing the word she used earlier back at her. All right, Hinata-chan, we will talk so you can let the woman go. Hinata, a little unnerved by the way she was addressed, did so before Kushina's husband quickly took her and moved away from the rest of the group. Kushina continued to glare at the two, while her husband helped her reopen her chakra points. After that was done, Minato looked at the dragon with a calculating gaze. Dragon-sama, how did you know Hinata-san's name? Plus, you knew Kushina and I were married. How? You also knew what a bijou was and that Kushina's chains can affect them. How do you know so much about us, since there are no dragons in our dimension? Everyone turns their attention to the dragon before them. Said dragon was debating what he should say. He decided to have fun with them for a bit. Of course he would. Many of them muttered, "The reason I know so much is because I was once a resident of your world." This surprised everyone since they would have heard something of a black dragon roaming around the elemental nations. How? There were no dragons in our world as far as I know. Are there? Minato asked Kurama and Hinata, both shaking their heads. The reason you've never seen me is because I was once human before I became the form you see before you. A human you all know very well. Wait, he was a human? Laxus asked in confusion. Oh, that's right. You never went to the dragon graveyard, did you? Wendy said. Yeah, we talked to a dragon spirit and he told us about his history. She informed him. Huh, what do you know? Mira muttered. She wasn't expecting that at all. That threw them for a loop. He was human before, a human they all knew? But this left the question. What human did Kurama, Hinata, Minato, and Kushina know? The former two were feeling a pit forming in their stomach as they thought longer about what he said. Acnologia looked at the girl and gave a fanged smile that increased her anxiety tenfold. You changed a lot more than I expected, Hinata Hyuga. You are no longer that shy girl I once knew who could barely utter a complete sentence. Hinata took a step back. The pit she was feeling was growing even more. The same could be said for Kurama. It can't be him. Please don't let it be him, Hinata thought. Is this really you? Have you become the monster that stands before me? Kurama sadly thought. Minato and Kushina were still unsure, but they were also feeling a pit forming for them. What is this feeling of dread that is coming over me? The two thought. Hey, don't sweat it. I would be scared to learn somebody I cared for become such a monster, Natsu said heartily. Natsu, do me a favor and be quiet. Lucy sighed out. Hinata gulped before asking the question that would confirm this fear of hers. How do you know so much about me? How do you know I was so shy before? Acnologia tilted his head to the girl. I know you because you promised me the day before my execution that you would change and become the strongest kunoichi in your village. It was also when you confessed your undying love for me. Does that ring any bells? Acnologia retorted. Okay, now he's just being rude. Happy said, quite upset. This is Acnologia, remember, Happy? Wendy asked him with a small smile. It did ring some bells. Hinata took several steps back before covering her mouth. Her wide as tears fell from them. Kurama was looking at Acnologia with both shock and sadness. Naruto-kun? She asked. Minato and Kushina snapped their heads between the girl and the dragon. Hey, Hinata, what did you say? Minato shakily asked. He hoped he heard wrong. His wife was also shaking, hoping this was all a nightmare. Hinata did not turn to them, instead focused on Acnologia. Are you Naruto-kun? She asked again. Acnologia simply sighed before looking at her again. Yes, I am Acnologia, the Dragon King, the Black Dragon of the Apocalypse, but when I was human, a shinobi. I was known as Naruto Uzumaki, the last Jinchuriki of Kurama, the Kyuubi no Yoko. The occupants just looked at him in shock, sorrow, and horror, the latter being Minato and Kushina. Hinata took several steps before she was in front of him. She slowly puts her hand on his snout and gently rubs it. Naruto-kun, she said quietly. Acnologia would never say it, but he was enjoying the girl's soft hands on him. They were so warm and comforting. It reminded him of Anna and the others. I'm surprised he could feel anything. I originally thought he was a monster, and yet I am seeing an entirely different side of such a menacing entity. Jura smiled. There are always two sides to every story, Jura-san. Let us figure out what he is, Shelia said with a smile. He decided to play nice with her. Acnologia's body began glowing brightly, which made Hinata pause and take a step back. Everyone was shocked as he continued to shrink, and his features changed until they became more human. He continued to shrink until he was about the same height as Hinata, if not slightly taller, when the light died down. The sight before them shocked them for a new loop. Where Acnologia once stood now was a man with a well-defined face and a chiseled chest littered with several scars around his torso and arms. His only form of clothing was black baggy pants and a black cloak. He had a necklace of fangs around his neck. He had spiky blonde hair like Minato's. He had slitted eyes with the deepest shade of blue that anyone had seen. The most striking feature was the 3 whisker marks on each of his cheeks. It was Naruto Uzumaki, a much older Naruto Uzumaki. The man looked at the girl in front of him before slowly putting a hand on her cheek. This startled the girl before she allowed the warmth of his hand to fill her. "Oh my, he is certainly handsome." Mira smiled. "Those whisker marks are certainly unique," Erza commented. "Well, he certainly dresses like the Acnologia we know, but he is so much different at the same time," Laxus said. "Yeah, the Acnologia we knew had blue-colored hair. This one is blonde," Natsu said. "And what's wrong with being blonde?" Lucy scowled. "Nothing. I'm just noting the differences between the one we faced and the story version of him." Natsu shrugged at her. "Oh wow, he is rather young. I am actually quite shocked," Jura said in surprise. "If anything, he's a centuries-old man in a young body," Gajil said. "Says here, Naruto was 19 when he transformed," Makarov quoted. "What?" Everyone shouted in shock. That young and he's so powerful," Elfman grunted out in shock. Amazing. He's as old as us when he rose to the top of the food chain," Natsu said in awe. "I have missed you, Hinata," he said softly. Tears began to fill her eyes, and Hinata soon began to cry before enveloping him in a hug. This shocked him before he reluctantly but slowly returned the hug. "Naruto-kun! Sob! Naruto-kun! Sob! You're back! Sob! I thought, Sob, I would never see you again. Sob! I missed you so much." Naruto simply hugged the girl and let her vent it all out. He wanted to enjoy this reunion, because for the first time in a long time, he was content and happy. "Oh, it's so sweet. Wah ha ha." Bacchus began to bawl his eyes out. "I just love a good love scene, bah ha ha ha." The manly man cried his heart out. "I never took him a stickler for a touching thing like that," Mira said. "I said it before, and I'll say it again. He likes a good story," Erza muttered. Makarov cleared his throat. "And that is the end of the chapter. Who's next?" he asked. However, before anyone could take the offer, a bright light filled the room, causing everyone to cover their eyes. When it died down, the 2 figures standing there left a shocking picture. Chapter 2. Eyes are wide as the 2 figures fade into existence. One has long, wavy blonde hair and green eyes, while the other has short, pitch-black hair and black eyes. The only thing they share is the fact they wear white clothes. These 2 are Mavis Vermilion and Zeref Dragneel. Mavis looks around in confusion. "Where are we? I thought we had died," Mavis asked. "It appears that someone or something brought us back, Mavis," Zeref said before they looked at the shocked group. Natsu and the Dragon Slayers got into fighting stances as they laid their eyes on Zeref. However, Mavis got in their way. "Hold on, we're no longer enemies. There is no reason to fight," she said calmly. Natsu sighed as he heard the Shodai before looking at Zeref. "Fine. But if he does anything remotely seen as a sign of fighting, I'll send him back to the grave," he declared. Zeref smiled fondly. "It's good to see you again, Natsu," he said, kindly. "If only the circumstances could be better," Natsu responded. Mavis smiled as she saw Makarov. "I see that my final act with magic worked so well, Makarov-chan." She smiled at the wheelchair-bound elder. "That was you who restored me, Shodai-sama?" Makarov asked her. "It wasn't much, but I felt bad about what happened, and I used the curse to reverse as much of the damage as I could. I guess I kind of failed seeing as you are in a wheelchair." She smiled softly. "Bah, this won't last long," Makarov told her with a smile. Zeref cleared his throat. "So, what is everyone doing here anyways? I see you're just sitting around waiting. What's going on?" he asked. After explaining to both of them what was going on, Mavis smiled brightly. "Oh, wow, a story. I love a good story," she said enthusiastically. Zeref chuckled. "You always did like a good book, Mavis," he said softly. Mavis snatched the book from Makarov. "Let me read. You just rest, Makarov-chan," she declared as she plopped down and pulled the former black wizard down with her, causing him to laugh heartily, which shocked a lot of people. Clearing her throat, Mavis began to read. A family quarrel and the unexpected arrivals. Naruto held on to Hinata for what seemed like hours, but he didn't mind at all. He wanted to let the girl vent out all her pent-up emotions for him. Plus, he really enjoyed the warmth coming off of her. It was really intoxicating. "Oh no, I'm gonna cry again. Sniff." Bacchus sniffled. "Get it together, man," Master Goldmine told the drinker. "I can't help it. I don't do emotional things that well," Bacchus whispered as a manly tear fell down his cheek. "Well, do something. You'll pull our reputation as a manly guild through the dirt if you don't," Warcree said. It was like sitting next to a huge fireplace. It was warm and comforting. It was really an amazing feeling. And her scent. Kami, her scent was something else. It reminded him of lavender mixed with honey. The two were melded together so perfectly that his nose felt like it was in paradise. Seriously, how more desirable could this girl get for him? She was perfect in every sense of the word. Beautiful inside and out, strong-willed, and without a hint of malice to her unless you're her enemy. She was a goddess, plain and simple, just like Anna and Irene were his goddesses. "Hold it!" Gajeel cried out as Erza felt her eyes widen in shock. There was no way he was talking about the redhead's mother, as well as Lucy's ancestor, was he? "What is it?" Mavis asked as Zeref chuckled. "If he is talking about Anna-sensei and this Irene character, does that mean he's a player or something?" the Iron Dragon asked. Irene is my mother. If that is true, then, thump." The redhead passed out. "Well, at least we know where she got her mean streak from," Natsu muttered. "That's a scary thought. Wait a minute. If Anna-sensei had a kid with this Naruto character as well, then does that mean—" Natsu stopped his train of thought before looking towards Lucy, causing several others look to the shell-shocked Lucy, who was close to passing out herself. "We will pick this up later," Zeref muttered as Mavis nodded her head and continued to read. Once upon a time. Returning from his daydreams, he looked down to see that the girl's crying had diminished to soft sobbing. He could hear her say something, but it was too muffled to understand a word. Looking at the other occupants, he sees Kurama watching the scene with an amused expression on his face. Naruto had to fight the urge to roll his eyes. He hadn't changed at all. He was still the same smug, sneaky bastard he remembered. He turned to the other two occupants and saw his parents watching the scene in shock. His mother was shaking while covering her mouth with her hands, while his father was just too shocked to say or do anything. He decided he needed to address the other occupants, so he looked down at the girl before cupping her face with his hands and bringing it up, so she was looking right at Naruto. The two stared at one another for some time before he spoke. "Hinata?" "Yes, Naruto-kun?" she asked softly. "While this reunion is heartwarming and very welcomed, we need to figure out how we came here." Hinata nodded. "An excellent point indeed," Mira said. "Why doesn't he just take some time to at least reunite with them? It doesn't make sense," Lisana said. "It might, if we allow Shodai-sama to read more," Evergreen whispered to the young woman. Naruto used his thumbs to wipe the last of the tears in her eyes, before walking toward the other three with Hinata close behind. Naruto continues walking towards the other occupants at a leisurely pace. Meanwhile, Minato and Kushina were a nervous wreck. They had no idea how they came here. One minute they were in the afterlife, and then there was a flash of light, and they were here, in this white void with Hinata and the Kyuubi. They were about to accuse the Kyuubi of being the cause, but Hinata warned them that if they did anything to the fox, they would pay. The Kyuubi said it had nothing to do with them being in this dimension, nor did it have the power to move souls that belonged to the Shinigami to another location. The two also noticed that the Hyuga was glaring at them venomously for some reason. Why? They had no idea. This did not sit well with Kushina, since she never liked it when people glared at her, so she glared right back. The two remained in that standoff until Acnologia showed up. Now they find out that this dragon was their son. How? Why was he like this? What happened to him in Konoha? As he walked towards them, they wondered what he would do. Does he know who they are? How would he react? Hugs or beatings? However, they were wrong on all accounts, since Naruto completely ignores them and walks straight to the Kyuubi. Naruto does not stop to acknowledge the other two, as he walks until he is right below the Kyuubi. "It's good to see you, Kurama. It has been a very long time." Kurama smiles. "Yes, I guess for you it has been a long time. For me, it's been 8 to 9 years. Still, I'm glad to see your ugly mug again, Kit." "I see death has not changed your smart mouth, Yubaka Kitsune, but I still missed you." Friendly banter with the dragon-sized rodent, amusing. Zeref smiled as he looked at the screen. "I wouldn't be surprised if he fought that thing and won," Makarov muttered. "That would be a fight worth watching." Natsu grinned. "Please, compared to your vixen, our reunion isn't that great." "Oh, by the way, how did your vixen feel? You got an up-close experience with her assets. How was it?" Hinata was blushing madly at the question that the Kyuubi asked Naruto. Naruto's answer just made it worse. "They were soft, warm, and comforting. Overall, best feeling I had in a long time." "So he's a pervert. Great," Minerva spoke with a bit of apprehension in her voice. "Nah, he's speaking bluntly. It's how Natsu speaks." Happy giggled out. "Oh, yeah, I see it now," she stated. Hinata was by this point reaching atomic levels of red before covering her face with her hands. Kurama snorted before he began laughing like a maniac. His laughter echoed throughout the void. "Ha ha 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 ha. Oh man, I do miss these conversations with you, Kit. You always made them entertaining. Never a dull moment with you." Naruto smirked. "I wouldn't be me if I wasn't unpredictable." Kurama then shifted to a serious expression before looking at Minato and Kushina, then looking back down at Naruto. "Aside from the fun and games, Naruto, I think you have to settle some things, and this is as good a time as any." Naruto sighed. He knew he was right. He couldn't avoid this, no matter how much he wanted to. It was time to bury this part of his past for good. He nodded before turning around and walking to the two sources of his past. His parents. The same ones that decided it was smart to seal the Kurama in him and leave him with the most irresponsible adults to watch over him, and a village that wanted his blood. Blood that they kept trying to take for nearly 13 years. Many times they nearly succeeded, but Kurama healed him from his near-death beatings. "What? Why I ought to go to this village and wipe them from the face of the earth?" Makarov roared out. "Calm down, Master. This isn't good for your recovery," Mira said calmly, though one could see the pain in her own eyes from what she heard. "Fine. I still hate it, though," he muttered. Then there was also the Sandaime Hokage, who did jack shit when it came to helping him. All he did was send the mobs that hunted him to I&T, but they always got out and came right back to hunting him. All because the useless old man could do nothing against the civilian and shinobi councils. The clan heads were also just as useless. Don't even get him started on Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Tsunade. The less said the better. He stopped his train of thought as he was about a meter away from them before standing still. He continues to look at them with the most blank expression any human being or dragon could produce. He almost looked like a statue, which worried Minato and Kushina even more. "Hello, Minato, Kushina. You look healthy for two dead people." "Wow, he can grind stone with that monotone voice," Laxus said with a raised brow. "Sheesh, he must hate them or something if their dying has this kind of effect," Levy commented. "I really want to see what happens now, Gihi." Gajil snickers. The aforementioned duo flinched at the dull, bland tone in their son's voice. Minato gulped before looking at Naruto's blank, cold eyes. Naruto, do you know who we are? How would I not know the great Yondaime Hokage, the great slayer of the Kyuubi and the savior of Konoha? Then we have his wife, Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. You are like gods to the people of Konoha. Why wouldn't I know who you are? Naruto spoke blankly. Naruto, I meant... I know what you meant, Yondaime. Naruto cuts him off before he continues. Oh, he's mad, Jura muttered. Better at them than at me, Gildarts chided. Oh, yes, I do not want a dragon mad at me. It wouldn't do for the hilth. The wizard saint laughed. So you know? That you are the parents that ruined my life and left me for dead in Konoha. Yes, I know exactly who you two are. The two flinched at his cold tone, but they were confused by what he said. Naruto, what do you mean we ruined your life? I mean, I know having the Kyuubi in you may have been bad, but you had Sarutobi Kakashi Jiraiya, who we named as your godfather, and the good people of Konoha to look after you. Minato smiled, wondering what he had learned from everyone. Don't forget about Tsunade Tebane, Kushina exclaims. However, their cheerful drops when they feel an immense ki aimed at them. They look to see Naruto glaring venomously at them. The whites of his eyes glowed, giving him a very eerie look. The Kurama just shakes his head at their stupidity, and Hinata activates her Byakugan in her rage. Naruto continued to glare for a good while before he spoke in a cold whisper. Not that bad. Looked after. Good people of Konoha. His voice was growing much angrier and louder. You stupid, naive, idealistic, arrogant pieces of shit! At this point, his voice was raised higher. He was now screaming at them. You have the fucking nerve to say to my face, while fucking smiling no else, what fucking village were you living in? And to answer your goddamned question, no. I was not well looked after. The moment after you sealed the Kurama within me, I had people screaming for my fucking death. Jiraiya, Kakashi, and Tsunade, as you well put it, did absolutely fucking nothing for me. The goddamned fucking Sandaime was even worse. He gave in to that 2-bit fucking console like a damn submissive bitch. I was forced to live in a damned orphanage till I was kicked out when I was fucking goddamned hour. I lived on the fucking damn streets for nearly 4 fucking years. I was put in an fucking apartment building in the fucking red light district of Konoha. Hell, the residents there treated me more human than the rest of the fucking goddamned fucking village. I have been beaten, tortured, stabbed, electrocuted, burned, drowned, and raped by the very people you saved. And you know what they fucking said as they fucking did all that to me? They said a demon like me has no fucking right to live, that they are honoring the Yondaime by finishing his job. So you tell me, what in the fucking hell did you fucking think you were doing when you fucking gave me a goddamned fucking death sentence in that village? This is censored, right? Biska asked as she covered her daughter's ears to avoid corruption at a young age. Alzak shrugged his shoulders. We're such horrible parents, Biska said, sulking, as a rain cloud popped into existence above her head, along with a small bolt of lightning showing how depressed she really was. I know. We're really horrible parents, Alzak cried out a little. By the end of his rant, Naruto was panting so heavily that he was wheezing. He had been keeping all his hatred bottled up for a long time. I'd imagine so, with a rant like that and with such colorful language, too, Lucy muttered. Wow, I will make sure to never get that angry at anyone if I can help it, Sting said with wide eyes. I agree, love is the best, Frosh said happily. He had no idea what was going on. He was dumb that way. And hearing that garbage from their mouths finally set him off, and he just let it all go. Still, it felt good to release all his pent-up rage. Plus, he took a sadistic pleasure in breaking their naive, perfect views of their beloved village. Now, if they didn't believe him, he'd just kill them and find his way out of here with Hinata's and Kurama's help. Though, could he kill them, since they were spirits? Maybe his magic can test out that theory. Taking souls from the living is one thing, but he's never tried it against the dead. He is cut from his train of thought when he feels a hand on his shoulder and looks over it and sees Hinata looking at him with concern. He gave her a nod to confirm that he was fine. "Yo, ang," a voice softly says. Naruto and Kurama, with their heightened hearing, picked it up immediately. Naruto sighed in annoyance before looking at the two and saw both their heads down, their bodies shaking. "Excuse me? You want to repeat what you just said, human?" Naruto growled out to his human father. Minato looks up. "You're lying. There's no way that happened to you. You must have exaggerated what they did to you. Konoha is one of the best villages in the elemental nations. Konoha would not do those things to you," Minato yelled defiantly. Kushina looked like someone whose world had been completely crushed and hoped everything she heard was a lie. By this point, both Hinata and Kurama released their Ki, aiming it right at them. Hinata was looking very jumpy to strike them. Naruto palmed his face with both hands, and he was trembling in rage. He slowly took his hands off, and his parents took steps back in fear. Naruto's eyes were completely white, and they were shining. It was really a terrifying sight. Naruto stomps over to them. However, Hinata beats him to it by appearing right in front of Minato. She rears her hand back and... "Oh shit, she's lost it," Elfman muttered. "And what's that supposed to mean?" Evergreen asked him. Was his response. Zeref chuckled lightly. These kids sure were fun. Makarov merely prepared to wince. Slap! Yup, there it was. At least she didn't hit him in the nuts. The slap was heard throughout the entire void. Everyone was shocked that Hinata slapped Minato right in the face. Hinata then calls out, 8 trigrams, 64 palms. Minato grunts in pain from the unexpected attack. No one could do or say anything as Hinata closed Minato's chakra points, leaving him vulnerable to attack. But Hinata was not even close to being done with this blonde fool. She grabbed him by the collar and slap, 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 slap. Hinata continuously slaps Minato back and forth again and again. Her eyes filled with such rage and malice that Naruto would never expect from the shy girl he once knew. "You are a fool! You are a fool! You fool! You fool! You are such a fool! What the hell does he gain from lying to you? I'll tell you, absolutely nothing. I can attest to all that he claimed, since I have seen how much that piece of shit village treated him far worse than any criminal in the world would be treated. He fought and bled for that village. And you know what that got him? A grave 6 feet under and an execution for false accusations that your village made against him." Hinata cried out to the man, "You want to know the best part? Those people you left to take care of him did nothing to ease his pain. They turned their backs on him and went into their own little world to ignore him. Now here you are, and all I hear is this fucking bullshit from you, you miserable piece of shit. I hate you and your bitch so fucking much right now." Hinata ranted off as she swung again and again against Minato's face. Blood was on her knuckles, since she quickly morphed from slapping to straight-up beating the yondaime with her fists. Naruto and Kurama just looked at the scene in shock and awe. Gajeel leans over to Lily. "Remind me to never piss Levi off." He told the cat, who nodded in agreement. "I think we should worry more about Erza than Levi-san," Lily spoke to him. The latter much more for the blonde. Naruto had never seen Hinata this mad. Hell, he never heard her swear in his life. He had to admit he enjoyed seeing the girl beat the foolish man into a bloody pulp. It was rather flattering and kinda hot. He then noticed movement and saw Kushina about to intervene. He decided it was time for him to get involved as well. Back with the other 3, Kushina could not stand seeing this anymore and decided to make a stand. "That's it, you little bitch! Let go of my husband, Tabane! Kushina shouted as she was about to strike Hinata, but the girl managed to get out of the way before Kushina inflicted any injury on her. Hinata skidded on the white floor before looking up at the Yondame's wife with rage. The same could be said for Kushina. The two hated one another. One is for ruining her beloved's life, while the other believes the other is manipulating her son or whatever that thing is. The two continued to glare at one another, while Minato slowly got back up and reopened his chakra points. His face was hysterical. He had one black eye that was beginning to take shape. His cheeks were bloody red and had splotches of blood in some areas. His lips were busted and leaked blood from the side of his mouth. His hair had some patches of red from the blood he spilled. All in all, it was a hilarious sight, especially for Naruto and Kurama. "You gonna pay for that, you bitch?" Kushina growled. "The feeling is a mutual old hag." Hinata sneered. "Ah, the banter. I miss it," Natsu said with a sigh. Hate to break it to you, but you never did any banter when you got into a fight, Natsu," Lucy said to him. "Wait to bring me down." Natsu sulked, causing Happy to laugh at his friend. That was the last straw, as both charged at one another. Minato was about to charge in as support, but Naruto appeared in front of him. "Get out of the way, Naruto." "No," Naruto blankly replied. "Get out of the way, Naruto," now Minato was shouting. "You have no say in what I do, Yondaime." "I am your father. I order you to stand aside, now," Minato growled out. "Oh boy, he didn't just pull that card, did he?" Sting said uneasily. "He did, and what's more, he pulled it on somebody far stronger than him," Rogue stated. Naruto's glare intensified as his eyes glowed once more. "You are no father to me. You are a sperm donor that knocked up that red-haired cow you call a wife. Nothing more, nothing less." The Dragon King replied to his human father. Minato looked livid at that comment. "If you won't get out of my way, then I will force you." Naruto merely smirked. "You can try." Minato jumped backward to create some distance between the two. He then summoned two shadow clones. Naruto raised an eyebrow at what the man was planning. The three men then took out several three-pronged kunai knives from their cloaks. The three then jumped in the air in different directions. The three hurled their kunai and shouted, "Kunai, Shadow Clone Jutsu!" Instantly, the 10 or so kunai that the three Yondaime sent became 100. Naruto just looked lazily at the knives as they landed around him. While some did land on his body, they quickly bounced off because of his reinforced dragon skin. The three men then disappeared in a flash of golden light. "Hirai Shin? Clever idea, Yondaime. If I was any ordinary enemy, this would work. However, I am no ordinary enemy, and I have faced far faster opponents than you," Naruto thought, as his eyes glowed a blinding white. He tilted his head as an incoming punch came from behind him. He quickly raised his leg and slammed it into Minato's abdomen. The sickening sound of bones being crushed and organs being squeezed to their limits was music to the Dragon King's ears. Several people winced from a phantom pain. The Dragon Slayers in particular, as they had fought the man in hand-to-hand combat. Gildarts had winced in pain as he had fought a much harder battle and nearly died. It had been a while since he caused bodily harm to an opponent, and Kami was it good doing against the bastard that ruined his life. Minato then puffed in a cloud of smoke, indicating he was a clone. Naruto was unfazed by this. It just made torturing him all the more entertaining. Then the other two Minatos appeared and tried to stab Naruto in the back and the other in the leg. Both attempts failed, as Naruto caught both by the arms, shocking them at how his son's reaction time was beyond anything he had ever seen. Naruto then brought the two together to end them, but the two quickly disappeared in a flash. Naruto was sick of this game of hide-and-seek and decided to end it. He raised his magical energy, and with a wave of his hand, a violent whirlwind ripped all the kunai off the ground and destroyed them. The two Minatos were on the ground in shock at what Naruto had done. "It's pretty much like when he fought with us, and he hardly ever moved from his spot," Wendy said. I think the only reason he moved was to just knock us down and then wait for us to stand so he could do it again and again, Laxus said. However, before the two could react, Naruto appeared in front of them looking at them with a malicious smile. A smile that promised pain and suffering. Without a second to react, Naruto plunged his hand into one of the Minatos in front of him while he held the other by the throat in a vicious vice grip. The one he stabbed screamed in agony and then puffed away. He turns his attention to the real one in his hand. He then performed some gestures before a magic seal appeared on Minato's abdomen. "Ooh, that can be good," Makarov said. "I would believe so. A magic seal of that design usually deals in taking away abilities and power." Zeref spoke softly. "He's a genius, so just listen to the former immortal." Minato was panicking as he couldn't feel his chakra anymore. Hell, he couldn't move a muscle. What was happening? "What have you done to me?" he choked out. Naruto smirked. "I just added a seal that seals away your chakra and makes you immobile, making sure you can't run away." Minato was panicking and was about to call for help, but a harsh punch in the gut made him choke on his words. "No more talking. Now take your beatings like a man." Naruto sneered as he reared his arm back and... Everyone prepared to wince at the look Naruto gave the man. Wham! Wince! Wham! Wince! Wham! Wince! Wham! Wince! Naruto punched Minato again and again. He could hear his ribs shattering and his organs taking damage. His face was getting more bloody and broken. He coughed blobs of blood as he was continuously pummeled. Naruto paused as he saw the blood mess that the Yondaime was in. He decided it was time to finish this and help Hinata. "Kaya!" a scream came from behind. He spun around to find Hinata standing over an equally beaten and bloody Kushina. She had cuts all over her body. Her hair was a mess and cut unevenly in various areas, and her dress was in tatters. Hinata had a foot planted on her chest as she looked down coldly at the woman under her foot. "Ku-sh-ina," Minato whispered out in horror at the state his wife was in. "The only good thing you did was bring Naruto-kun into this world. Then you went and died and left him all alone. So do us all a favor and go back to the dead." Hinata raised her, and to the shock of the occupants, chakra swirled into her hand until it formed into a sphere. The Rasengan. Naruto looked at the attack with a sense of nostalgia. It had been a very long time since he used his signature attack, and seeing Hinata using it against his mother just made her all the more appealing. "I mastered this technique in honor of Naruto-kun. Your husband was the one that created it, right? So it's appropriate you die from the attack that was made by your beloved's hand," Hinata sneered. "Bah, ha, 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 ha! It's so sweet of her to do that for him," Bacchus wailed out. "Get him!" a member of Quattro Kerberos called out as several of them tackled the drinker into a cloud of fists, chibi-freed heads, stars, and feet as they rolled around before it stopped to show a tied-up and gagged Bacchus. Naruto just looked at the woman in awe, with lust clearly evident in his eyes. "Kami, do I want her? But first we rid ourselves of the trash, then we can have some fun." Naruto thought gleefully before turning his attention back to his father. "Well, Yondaime, it's been fun, but I think it's time we end this for good." Minato just glared at his fellow blonde. "Go to hell, you demon! You are not my son. You just made all that crap up, and you dare take my son's appearance. You are an abomination to the world!" he screamed at him. Naruto just gave him a look that screamed boredom, though with his eyes completely white, it was hard to see what he felt. "As always, you are a disappointment. Farewell, Minato Namikaze. May you live with the constant regret of damning your son along with your wife in the afterlife." Naruto then charged his own Rasengan. Naruto and Hinata then struck their Rasengans to end their opponents, but "Enough!" a booming bellowed out. It was so loud and powerful that Naruto and Hinata lost control of their Rasengan and were sent flying in the same direction. Minato and Kushina were knocked out by the blast. Naruto and Hinata looked up to see the annoyed face of Kurama glaring down at them. "I was wondering when that fox would act," Mira said. She had kept quiet most of the chapter to see what would happen. "I guess we'll see what happens next," Lisana said. Naruto was about to reprimand him, but Kurama cut him off. "Not a word from any of you. Naruto, I understand you are pissed. Trust me, I know that better than anyone. The same goes for you, Hinata. Both of you need to let this go and focus on the matter at hand, which is getting us out of here. These idiots pissed you off, I get that. Hell, I got pissed off too when they said that crap to you as well." Kurama growled, before sighing as he calmed down a bit. "But what we need to focus on is how to leave this void and not begin pointless fights because of old feuds. If you let your rage consume you, you'll be no different than the Uchiha who ruined your life and the other Uchiha who was consumed by his hatred for his brother. Do you want to become like that? No? Then can you all cooperate until this matter is settled? I have the feeling that being called this Uchiha is a big no-no," Erza said as she sat up, the shock of her potentially being this man's child slowly ebbing away. "Ursa, you're awake," Happy said happily. "Yes, I was overcome by these emotions that I had not felt in a long time," she said. "But I am fine now," she told Happy. "I would gander as much to say it is true," Mavis said as she looked at the side note. "Says he had a rivalry with a man with the last name, and he betrayed him and nearly killed him in a fight," she said. "Damn, that's messed up," Bixlow said. Naruto growled at the fox in anger, but eventually realized that the fox was right. He had let his anger cloud him, and while the bastards deserved it, that was not the big problem at hand. He took a deep breath as his eyes went back to their normal blue coloring. He looked to see that Hinata was still glaring between the fox and his mother. "Hinata," she turned to her beloved, "grab the woman and bring her to Kurama, so we can heal her along with the bastard next to me," pointing down at Minato. Hinata glared at him in frustration. "No, this woman does not deserve such kindness, and neither does that man," she growled. "Wow, no sympathy for the ones who made you," Freed said in a dull speech. "I wouldn't show any either, and I'm sure you would do the exact same if it was you." Evergreen chastised him. "Well?" He couldn't exactly respond to that one. "Hinata, we have bigger worries than these idiots. Please do this for me," he asked softly, hoping it would work. It did. Hinata glared at the two before sighing, grabbing Kushina by her hair and dragging her to the Kyuubi. Naruto likewise did the same with Minato. Naruto put the same immobilization seal on Kushina before he allowed Kurama to heal them. The two eventually regained their surroundings and remember where they were. The couple glared at the other duo in anger, but Naruto was not in the mood for it. "You may glare all you want, humans, but it won't change the truth of who I am." The two Kage-level shinobi just growled at him in rage. "You are no son of ours, you imposter!" the duo shouted definitely. Naruto just sighed along with Hinata. The girl then turns to her crush with a curious look in her eyes. "Naruto-kun, is there any way to prove to them that you are their son? Or show them your memories? It may be easier to convince them to help us." "Stop calling that demon my son's name!" Kushina screamed. But she was ignored. Naruto closed his eyes in thought before looking at Hinata. "Yes, there is. But they may still think I am lying." "Then perhaps I can help you," a voice stated. "Who's that? Another dragon or something?" Erza asked. "I mean, we saw how deep a dragon's voice is, so it's possible," Lucy stated. The occupants turned their heads to the source of the voice and were shocked at who the origin of the voice was. Two figures approached them. Both of these beings were equal in size to Kurama, and were dragons like Naruto was when he first appeared in the White Void. "I knew it," Erza claimed with a clenched fist. "Okay, we get it, no need to gloat," Mira said with a smile. The first one had aquamarine scales covering the top half of his body, while his lower body was covered in gray scales. His wings were bat-like, just like the typical depiction of a dragon, and colored aqua-like his skin. His eyes were a very light blue that matched the sky on a bright summer day. He had a white flowing bear tied with a golden band going down his chin, and had 4 horns on his head. 2 horns on the top of his head and 2 on his side that were golden at the tips and extended outwards and inwards respectively. A white unibrow covered his forehead and went up to his hair. He had 2 golden plates on his shoulders that connected at the front of his body with a chain. At the end of the chain was a large blue jewel. Past the plates was a long, dark blue cloak that reached the end of his tail and had 2 golden bands like his beard. He also had 2 brown packs on both of his sides that were filled with books and scrolls. "Wow, that is one old-ass dragon," Gajeel said dully. "Even Igneel doesn't hold a candle to this one age," Natsu stated. "I think Weislogia might come close, but I'm not too sure." Sting hummed. "From what I remember, Grandine was rather young even for a dragon," Wendy said in thought. That dragon surprised Naruto, but it was the second that surprised him the most and made him feel something he had not felt in a long time. Fear. The second occupant was a completely black dragon like Naruto's form, but his underbelly was a much darker shade of gray. He had 4 fingers for his claws and talons. His wings were also bat-like in design and had black transparent skin on them. He had 2 horns on his head and 4 on his chin. He had amber eyes with black horizontal slits. He also had bone-like horns that started on his head and then went down his spine to the end of his tail, which was in the shape of an axe. The most noticeable attire on this dragon was the silver necklace around his neck that seemed to have an indentation in the center for some kind of jewel. Oh, something tells me that this one means something to Naruto-san," Jura said. "Good. Give that ass a good scare." Gildart scowled. "You said it, old man." Kana cheered with a bottle of booze being held aloft in the air. Naruto was shaking at who was in front of him. Hinata looked at him concerned at how afraid he seemed right now. She taps him on the cheek with her hand, which snaps him out of his trance for him to look at her in concern, which worries her even more. "Naruto-kun, what's wrong? You look so shocked and scared. Please, tell me." Hinata asked in concern. Naruto remained quiet, but a cough from the dragons got their attention. "I believe we may answer why young Naruto is feeling so anxious in front of us," the blue one said with a smile. Hinata looked at them in worry, while Kurama looked ready to fight if necessary. The blue one's smile increased when the girl asked who they were. "You see, young Hinata, I am known as the Chronicler, one of the elder dragons. I am the watcher for all dragonkind. I have recorded the history of the dragons from their infancy to their present state. My fellow Draconian is Thoron, the Dragon of Energy, the 6th Dragon King." Chapter 3. Zeref opens the book to the appropriate pages and clears his throat. "Okay, then let's see here. There once was a woman from Nantucket." "Zeref!" Mavis cried out with tears in her eyes as she drew his attention. "What?" "Please read the real story," she begged him. This caused the man to chuckle, along with several others, as he nodded his head and actually began to read. Story time and a chance to change. The silence that encompassed the room was deafening. Kurama and Hinata were looking between the dragons and Naruto in shock. Did Naruto kill his surrogate father? Why, though? What would cause him to do such an act against the being who most likely raised him like a son? Power. Revenge. None of those matched Naruto's beliefs or ideologies. But they had no idea how long it had been for Naruto after his execution. so it's possible that he changed into someone much more bitter and vengeful than his old self. However, any doubts were removed when they saw how the aforementioned blonde was taking the appearance of the two dragons. In layman's terms, Naruto was shaking like a frightened rabbit. They could tell Naruto was terrified of speaking with the former Dragon King, let alone being in the same room as him. Good. He should be scared, Gajeel grumbled out. I don't think it's fear of death, Gajeel. He's shaking out of pure fear at the sight of him. Levi spoke as she bit into cupcake number 19 and took a swing of Coke. Gajeel took a second to look at the picture. Huh. What do you know he is? He said with a couple blinks of in his eyes. Speaking of Naruto, said Blonde could not look Thoron in the eye. He had disgraced the great legacy Thoron had left him with his actions during the Third Dragon Civil War. He spat on his ideals and his last wishes. That was why, at the moment, he had his head lowered in shame, not being able to look at Thoron directly. As far as he was concerned, he should not be king. Wow, he's laying it on thick. He didn't want to be king, Gildart said in surprise. Only those with a good heart deny the fact they don't want something and it makes them better for it, Mavis said with a smile. It does, doesn't it? Zeref whispered as Mavis leaned into his shoulder with a gentle smile before he turned back to the book in hand. And yet, none of the dragons came after him to take the crown. Was it because he was the strongest, or because the crystal still saw him worthy? But why, though? He had done nothing to earn that title or its benefits. All he did was bring the dragon race to near extinction. Hell, all he has been doing for the last 400 years is destroying countless empires and civilizations. That much we can agree on. We have the book that lists his deeds, Warren said. I think you're missing the point here, Warren, Wakaba said. He would rather listen to the story, but he needed to bring the kids' heed back down to earth. Yeah, let's just listen to the story. Wendy agreed. Even if many were ruled by a tyrannical man or were followers of Zeref, he didn't just kill the king, he killed everything. Every man, woman, and child were eradicated by him. It was a literal genocide. He brought nothing but death, destruction, and annihilation to anything and anyone that came in his line of sight, all in the name of filling the empty void that had not closed in those 400 years. Okay, I take it back. I don't agree with him not destroying everything, Warren said. Well, at least he admits his wrongs, Lucy said with a shiver. Total genocide, all because he wanted to fill his heart. How sad. Mavis moped. The blonde was cut from his musings when a black claw touched his chin and lifted his head. He locked his eyes with Thoron. While he expected rage or disappointment, he did not expect a gentle expression on Thoron's maw. He merely smiled at Naruto's bewildered look. It has been a long time, my son. You have grown to become a magnificent dragon, Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened and just gawked at his predecessor while ignoring the screams coming from Minato and Kushina about calling him that name. Naruto pushed the claw away and looked at Thoron in anguish and confusion. How can you say that to me? How can you say all that after everything I have done? I killed you. I killed countless of my brethren in cold blood. Hell part of me enjoyed it while I saw their lives being taken away as their eyes lost their light and they fell into the cold earth. For dragon's sake, I drank and bathed in their blood and ate some of their bodies and organs. How can you still look at me with such love and affection? I don't deserve to be loved. Why don't you scorn me? Why don't you hate me? Answer me, he demanded. So he does regret his actions in the story, but the one we fought just wanted more. Laxus hummed. It is a quandary to think about, Freed said. So he was expecting to be knocked down a peg by his predecessor. How unexpected, Mira said with slightly widened eyes. I sure didn't see that coming. This Naruto guy sure is a man to take punishment for his actions, Elfman said. By the end of his rant, Naruto was on his hands and on his knees, weeping and shaking. He couldn't understand why his father still loved him after everything he had done to him, their people, and his legacy. Hinata could not stand anymore and watched her beloved look so broken. The last time she saw him like this was before his execution. She rushed to his side and did her best to comfort him despite his protest. She did not care about the things that he had done. Now that's devotion. Despite all he has done, she still wants to stand by him and help him through the bad, Happy said with a small, tearful smile. I know. Why can't Lucy be like that? Natsu scowled. Okay, fine. I won't be helpful when you need me, the blonde yelled out. It's been years since she saw him, and people change as tragedy happens to them. She did not care if he was the reincarnation of evil itself. She promised she would love him for all eternity, even if it meant falling into the depths of hell to be with him. She would jump off the edge without a second thought. Wow. Talk about commitment, Lucy said to herself. Happy gave a giggle. Hey, Lucy, would you do it for Natsu? He asked. Yeah, shut it, cat. She quickly stopped herself from answering the deranged feline with a one-track mind. Meanwhile, Kurama looked at the scene with a sad expression on his maw. He knew what it was like to have failed a father and to have killed thousands of people for years. It was like he and Naruto were reflections of one another. It actually made him feel some pity to know that someone he came to care about, like a son, ended up like he did in his life. He looked to the Minato and Kushina and saw they were surprised at Naruto's sudden outburst, since before he seemed like a stone-cold killer. Now they say that it was a facade to hide away the shame, guilt, pain, and most importantly, the anger that lay deep within. Kurama just had to chuckle cynically. No matter how much time passes, some things will never change. In Naruto's case, wearing a mask to hide his true feelings. Wait, he wears a mask? That was something I totally did not see coming, Sting said in surprise. It was quite easy to spot when pointed out, but even I hadn't thought about something like that, Minerva said. I guess it was something that he got good at using. It was hard to notice unless openly spoken about, Jura said. The aforementioned couple were looking at the scene with great shock and confusion. Shock and horror at hearing what Naruto did, and confusion that he genuinely showed remorse for the things he had done. The pit that had formed earlier was coming back. No matter how much they wanted to deny it, the more they were beginning to believe that this was their son. However, they needed to know if it was truly him. What kind of idiot claims to love their son, then renounces him, only to say they actually love him still? Lisana asked heatedly. Those two apparently, Gray said dully. Yeah, you're right, my bad dumb question. The young woman sighed. Back with Naruto, he continued to sob, while Hinata held him as tightly as she could and whispered comforting words from her. He did not deserve such a gesture from such a kind woman. She was light personified, while he was darkness in its worst form. Yet, he held her as tightly as he could, as if she was his lifeline. Thoron looked down at his son in sadness. He knew that Naruto had suffered far worse than most dragons had suffered in all of their lifetimes combined. He knew that he had bottled all this anguish, but he needed to get back at business to help with the mission ahead. Oh yes, now we get some info, Bixlow said as he leaned back in his seat. This I have to simply hear. Freed agreed as he grabbed a plate of food that appeared with his thought of hunger. Naruto, look at me, he said, and Naruto obeyed. What happened 400 years ago was a tragedy. A great tragedy indeed. However, it was unavoidable with how the war was going for both sides. Sadly, this is true. If that war hadn't broken out, things would be different. Lucy sighed out. But if it hadn't happened, then we would have never met, Natsu said, causing Lucy to smile. Yeah, and that was one of the upsides of that war. She agreed. Someone would have ended just like you, and the same result would have occurred, regardless of what you or anyone else did. None of the dragons blame you for what happened. Not me, not the chronicler, nor the elementals, or the other dragons. Didn't you ever wonder why none of them nor our allies did anything to stop you? They felt some responsibility for what happened to you and decided to leave you alone in your grief and ordered the remaining dragons to go into hiding. Now that you have calmed down to a reasonable level, the chronicler and his father decided to set this little meeting up and to give you something. Well, spit it out. I want to know what they want the man to do. Gajeel grumbled. Lily sighed. Let the story progress, Gajeel. We'll find out momentarily, he said to the man. Fine. What do they want to offer Naruto-kun? Hinata asked for him. Thoron smiled at the girl before caressing her cheek with one of his claws. So you are the famous Hinata. Naruto would always speak about you for a very long time. I must say you are as beautiful as he described. He would always talk about you most of the time, calling you his lavender queen or moon goddess. He especially talked all the time when your daughter asked him about you. I am glad I had a chance to meet my son's first mate. Wait, daughter? The two of them had a daughter? Ichiya questioned. I'm sure we discussed this a couple of chapters ago, boss, Ren said. Yeah, let's just listen to the story, Hibiki said with a smile. Hinata was literally steaming red from what Thoron told her. Beautiful? Moon goddess? Lavender queen? How can Naruto swoon her over with such simple words? 'Cause he's a real man. Take a guess who said that. Will you stop it with the real man commentary? If I hear the words real man from you again, I'm gonna turn you stone for real. You shouldn't fight if you're gonna get married. Mira! Ni-chan! They only met after a few years, and he can sweep off her feet so easily. She looked at Naruto and saw his eyes. She saw that he meant every word, and that they were still true to him even now. She wanted to take him right then and there, but something Thoron said got her attention and caused her to look at the dragon in confusion. Thoron-sama, what do you mean, daughter? Me and Naruto have no children. Thoron smiled at his nickname, as did Chronicler, Naruto, and Kurama. Did you forget the time between Naruto and yourself before he was executed? Hinata blushed a deep red again and nodded, remembering her time with her beloved. Yes. Now about this offer, she asked. Before that, I think there are some people that need to be informed about some events, right, Naruto? The chronicler spoke this time. Naruto nodded and got up before walking over to Kurama and his parents again. He released one seal to allow the ability to move, but kept to chakra locked so they did not try anything. Naruto looked at them seriously. The two were nervous, but remained calm. What I am about to show you is my life up till my execution. I have no reason to lie to either of you, so know this is the absolute truth. I swear a blood oath to the dragons. I am showing you the truth. After he finished that, lightning boomed within the void, confusing everyone except the dragons and Naruto on what it meant. Okay, I'm confused. What the heck is a blood oath to the dragons? Laxus asked in confusion. Yeah, even I'm at a loss, Natsu said in agreement. That's 'cause all you focus on are your stomach and fighting, Gajeel muttered. The chronicler decided to explain. A blood oath to the dragons is a sacred vow that a being makes that they swear to uphold and accomplish the task they promise to keep. Failure to do so would mean eternal pain and suffering for the person that broke that solemn oath. Okay, he's insane, Lucy said quickly. We already knew that, was the unanimous agreement. Everyone looked at Naruto in shock. He would really take it that far to prove he was telling the truth. Then again, it was just like him to do something so crazy. Naruto then closed his eyes. Byakugan. When he opened his eyes, they glowed a pale white. Hinata looked at him confused about why he called it that. I named it Byakugan. because of how my eyes looked and some of their abilities match yours. Plus, it was my way to honor you. It made me feel I had a piece of you with me at all times. Oh, it's so beautiful! How'd he get out? Restrain him or our rep is toast. Get him! Hold him down and tie his legs. Where's a gag at? I need something to gag him with. Here, use this to tie his hands behind his back. Use gorilla duct tape to tape him to the chair. When it was all said and done, Bacchus looked like a mummy with all the restraints being used to either tie him to the chair or keep him from moving. All that could really be seen were his eyes, which had manly tears flowing down his cheeks. He smiled when Hinata looked like she was the happiest woman on the planet and gave him a big, fat, wet French kiss. The kiss lasted for a few minutes and involved a lot of tongue movement until Naruto was given some time to breathe. He looked to see that Hinata's face was flushed and her eyes had a lot of lust in them. Lust for him and him only. He knew he probably had the same look on him. The dragons and fox just laughed at the display. Minato and Kushina were blushing at the display of affection since that should be reserved in the bedroom. Naruto pulled his attention back to his parents. "Memory projection!" he shouted as a giant white screen appeared above his head. The screen flashed to life. He projected Konoha after Kurama's attack and being sealed inside Naruto. The scenery was from a horror movie. Fire was everywhere, burning buildings and corpses of the dead. Buildings were crushed and destroyed, and many areas were left barren. Bodies of the dead were scattered everywhere. Sometimes only limbs were all that remained of a person. The scene changed to the council room when the reinstated Sandaime took charge after his successor's death and revealed Naruto's condition to the council. Immediately they screamed for his death on the civilian side, while the shinobi wanted him on a leash or in a jail cell to protect everyone. Danzo wanted him as a weapon to be used against their enemies. The Sandaime demanded silence and explained Naruto would live in the orphanage and later be put in a home in the red light district with no one helping him, including the Hokage. Almost everyone agreed and the meeting ended. "Okay, Dick move," Natsu stated. "Which part? The weaponization part or the no help from anybody?" Erza asked with a glare. She was thinking both. "Both of them. No, all of it," he crowed out. "Okay, glad we are on the same page." The redhead spoke. The scene changed to Naruto having a horrible time in the orphanage, being given worn-out clothes and barely any blankets to keep himself warm. The other kids and caretakers abused and bullied the child for the years he remained in the orphanage. When he was 4, he was thrown out onto the streets, in a blizzard no less. He would have died from hypothermia and frostbite if the fox had not used his chakra to keep Naruto warm and protected from the elements. Naruto lived in cardboard boxes for shelter and found his food in the various dumpsters he scavenged around. "That's so sad. Juvia wouldn't hesitate to help the young boy out," Juvia said. "I'm sure all of us would gladly help him out," Wendy said in agreement. After one beating on his birthday, he was given his run-down apartment. It was during his time he met the good people of Ichiraku Ramen, who always gave him a bowl of food. It soon became his favorite place to eat and hang out. But that did not deter the numerous attempts at his life. He was beaten and abused in the most vile ways a human could do to a child. Then when he was 8, he was kidnapped by several villagers that tortured and raped him for several months. By the time he was rescued by the Hokage and some of his trusted Anbu, the deed was done, the same Anbu that arrived late to save from his beatings. What horrible, horrible people to allow such atrocities to happen to a mere child. If I was there, I would slaughter them. Makarov growled. He was starting to hate this world that Naruto was originally from more and more. "I agree. I think it was best that he came here." Mavis scowled. After his rescue, Naruto was an empty husk. He cared nothing for anyone or anything. He was tired of the pain, of all the suffering. So he took a knife into his home and pierced his heart with it. He fell to the floor as he was drowning in a pool of his own blood. But the fox saved him from death and he was taken to the hospital to speed up the healing. After release, Naruto tried to end his life for months, but each time he failed miserably. Naruto finally just gave up on trying to end his life, and then he came up with the idea of becoming Hokage and gaining everyone's love and appreciation. Since everyone looks up to the Hokage with love, awe, and respect, and looks up to him for guidance, he decides to do the same. Well, at least he tried to do something productive rather than continuously try suicide, Minerva whispered. So much despair in his heart. It's a miracle he didn't go insane sooner. It's amazing how much he was willing to go through just for somebody to acknowledge him. Lecter sighed out. He entered the academy to become a ninja, but he quickly saw that his teachers did everything possible to sabotage his learning. Naruto decided to play pranks to get back at them and to vent out his hate on the village. Plus, it was a good lesson in stealth, and he managed to outrun the Chunin, Jonin, and Anbu chasing him for hours. He literally painted the village's monument in broad daylight in a neon orange jumpsuit, and no one caught him until he was done. The day he failed for the third time, he was tricked into stealing the Scroll of Seals, which was a relic of the village. He mastered a forbidden technique from it in just a few hours. Bet he was good at sneaking around if he was able to paint a whole mountain in a kill-me orange jumpsuit. Sheila giggled. Hey, I think it's cute, Lucy said. The technique was called the Shadow Clone Jutsu, which creates solid copies of the user. These copies were self-conscious and able to think for themselves, but usually acted identically to the original. The main thing was that anything they learn or experience goes to the original user after they are dispelled in a cloud of smoke. He used it to save the one teacher who cared about him and beat the other teacher who tricked him into stealing the scroll. He was put on a team with his crush, Sakura Haruno, and his emo rival, Sasuke Uchiha. His teacher was a masked cyclops by the name of Kakashi Hatake. He was a lazy bum who always arrived 3 hours late and gave the worst exercises you could have ever heard. He gave lousy exercises and always focused on Sasuke. Sakura never cared and always fawned over Sasuke. She would always berate and hit Naruto whenever he tried to cheer her up or ask her out. Why would she do that if he's just trying to be nice? That is just so stupid, Mavis said in confusion. Fangirls, so pathetic, Erza growled. She had met her fair share of them. Then came his first mission outside the village, which went from a simple C rank to an A rank. It was during this mission he learned what his ninja way would be and how he would live his life in the shinobi world. Then came the chance to advance in ninja rank, the Chunin exams. It was broken into 3 parts. A written part, which went off with little trouble. The second part was a survival exam in an area called the Forest of Death. That is where things went to shit. First, the 3 got separated from each other by a powerful wind attack. Then, Naruto gets eaten by a giant snake. Then, after he gets out, he finds his teammates being attacked by the guy who sent that snake. This man was Orochimaru. Though calling him a man or even human was a huge understatement, he was the definition of a snake man. His skin was ghostly pale, his eyes were yellow and slit like a snake, and he had purple liner around them. He had straight waist-length black hair. He had pronounced cheekbones and fanged-like teeth. He wore a plain gray garb with black polo pants with a thick purple rope around his waist. All in all, the man screamed pedophile in every sense of the word. Naruto used some of Kurama's chakra to fight him, but he was knocked out eventually by having his connection cut off by Orochimaru. After the snake marks Sasuke with a curse mark, he leaves them to their own devices. His team barely makes it to the 3rd stage. Well, at least he didn't do anything more than thrash them, Laxus said. A preliminary stage is set to narrow down the numbers. Naruto is able to win, as is Sasuke. Sakura ends her fight in a draw. Naruto then makes it his personal mission to beat Neji for nearly killing Hinata in their match. Naruto and the others had 1 month to train before the third round. Naruto meets Jiraiya for the first time. Jiraiya was one of Orochimaru's teammates, and both studied under the Sandaime. He was in his 50s and had spiky white hair that reached his waist and tied in a ponytail. He wore green polo pants with a matching long-sleeved kimono-style shirt. Over the shirt, he wore a red hyoari. He had a large scroll tied on his back. He wore a headband with 2 small horns and the oil kanji in the middle of the metal piece on the headband. He teaches Naruto how to summon toads and use Kurama's chakra consciously. This was when he met Kurama for the first time. After that, Naruto relaxes until the fateful day of the exams. Naruto nearly loses to Neji, but Kurama's chakra helps him pull out a win. "Hey, that's a good start," Natsu cheered loudly. "Underdogs for the win!" Happy cheered. Then, during the last round, Orochimaru initiates an invasion he had been planning along with another village, Suna. Naruto ends up fighting Gaara, who had Kurama's youngest brother, Shukaku, inside him, but is driven insane by the faulty seal that caused Gaara to have insomnia. Naruto was able to change Gaara's view on life, but many died in the aftermath of the invasion, including the Sandaime. Naruto and Jiraiya go to find the Sandaime's last student, Tsunade Senju. She is the greatest healer in all of the elemental nations and the strongest female ninja. She was in her 50s like her teammates, but looked to be in her 20s because of a special technique. She had pale blonde hair tied into 2 ponytails behind her. She had brown eyes and a violet jewel on her forehead. She wore a dark gray kimono-style vest, blue pants, black kunoichi heels, and a green jacket over her vest. Naruto finds out she is a drunken mess because of the loss of her loved ones during the last war and compulsive gambler with horrible luck. He is able to get her out of her drunken mess and convince her to return to the village, but not before there is a battle royale between Tsunade and Jiraiya against Orochimaru and his assistant, Kabuto. Kabuto was in his late teens with silver hair tied in his ponytail. He wore round glasses and purple pants with a matching shirt and fingerless gloves with a white sash tied around his waist. The fight ended with Orochimaru and Kabuto running away. Though Naruto did barely anything, he did learn his father's signature move, the Rasengan, during this time as a consolation. "We could care less about the fight between the 3 stooges, dumber and dumbest of all," Gildart said lightly. He'd let them choose who was who. "A signature move of his old man's, hey? Bet it was a badass move," Kana said. "It's the move Hinata-san used in Kushina's last chapter, Kana," Mira stated. "Oh," was her comment. After they returned to Konoha and Tsunade became the Godame Hokage, Naruto went on several missions, including saving an actress that turned out to be an actual princess of Spring Snow Country and helping a power lord in the Land of Tea. However, everything went downhill when Sasuke tried to leave Orochimaru to get more power so that he could kill his brother. Naruto and a team of his friends were ordered to go after him. In the end, it was a fight between Naruto and Sasuke at the Valley of the End. Naruto managed to take the win thanks to Kurama's chakra. "Woo, way to go, kid!" Makarov cheered happily. He dragged Sasuke back, hoping for some recognition at long last. Nope, not even fucking close. Immediately, the council said he had used excessive force to bring back the Uchiha and needed to be put down. They threw him in jail and told him that his execution would be held in a week. No one came to see him, or was even allowed to see him. Not his friends, not his teachers, no Iruka, no Jiraiya, no Tsunade, no one. The last time he saw them was when he was dragged into the prison. All of his friends call him a traitor and a monster. The council blew the lid on his secret, and now everyone knew he was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, and hated him for it. His closest people, Iruka, Tsunade, and Jiraiya, did nothing for him, and watched in silence as he was taken away. "What?" was the collective yell. "Those jerks!" Lisanna screamed. "Why would you hate him more for doing what he was told to do? These guys are all stupid!" Natsu screamed. It was in his time of solitude he realized how foolish he had been in trying to change the village. It was during this time that Hinata visited him. She bawled her eyes out as she confessed her love for him. She managed to find a way into the prison and had one night of beautiful love-filled passion with him. Minato, Kushina, and Hinata blush at this. And Kurama helps Naruto have one thing to remember her by. He also gives Naruto his power since he has been the only one worthy of his power. He also reveals Naruto's heritage to him, which was the start of his hatred for his parents and his desire to destroy Konoha. I'd let him out just so he would do it, regardless if he was going to be killed. Jura scowled at the screen. No argument there, Jura-san. Lecter nodded in agreement. On the day of his execution, the entire village came out to see it, except Hinata and the Ichiraku. Naruto was killed by being set on fire, but he did not scream, he laughed. A bone-chilling laugh that filled the air and scared the shit out of everyone. He then told them about his heritage and why Kurama attacked the village before finally dying and leaving his old world for a new one. "Well, good riddance to them all, I say," Minerva said. "Best to wash the hands of such unmanly idiots," Elfman said from his seat. The screen finally disappeared as Naruto's eyes returned to normal. He was panting somewhat from the overuse of his eyes, since it had been a long since he went that long with a memory projection. He realized that he was seriously out of shape and needed to fix that. He looks up to see Hinata worried but waves it off. He turns to his parents and sees that they are literally broken. Both were crying, their eyes slamming their fists to the ground, cursing everyone and wishing that they just let Kurama destroy the village if this was what awaited their son. They cursed the Uchiha that released Kurama and turned him on the village. They cursed Sasuke for being the final nail to end Naruto's life, and they cursed Tsunade, Jiraiya, Kakashi, and the Sandaime for not helping their son enough. They cursed the entire village to the pits of hell, and most of all, they cursed themselves for damning their son. They had foolishly believed that their son would be loved by everyone and would be seen as a hero by all. What fucking idiots they had been. Their stupid, naive idealism cost their son not only a childhood, but a life in general. The question that continued to plague their minds was, why? Why did the people they trusted with their lives not do the same for their own flesh and blood? Did they just pretend to care about them and show their true colors to Naruto? Was this really what they gave their lives for? They saved their village for their son to be beaten and killed? To be turned into a monster worse than the Kyuubi? Well, 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 look who gets a picture. Kana snorted sarcastically. They were cut from their musings when Naruto began to speak. I have shown you the truth of my upbringing, and now I have something to say. Something that has been long overdue. You two have caused me a great deal of misery in my existence. Whether it was indirectly or involuntarily, the fact remains is you made my childhood a living hell. But I should thank you since I was given a father in the form of Kurama and Thoron, Minato flinches, and a mother in Thoron's queen, Saphira, Kushina, flinches. After everything that's happened to me, I can honestly say without remorse that I hate both of you. I hate you so much that it burns my very being. Even though you now feel remorse for your mistakes, it does not change anything for me. I will not forget what you did, nor could I ever forgive you for the harm you've caused me. Minato and Kushina were crushed by his words, but knew he was telling the truth. They did not deserve his forgiveness. They could not believe it could get worse. They were so wrong. That is why I hereby renounce both of you as my parents. I am officially disowning both of you from my very existence. You have caused me too much pain to ever accept either of you as my parents, not now and possibly for the rest of my natural existence." "Tell it to him, kid," Gildart said with a clenched fist pump at his hip. The aforementioned duo felt their entire world shatter. Their own son had renounced them. He said he sees two dragons and the Kyuubi of all beings as his parents more than the two of them. They couldn't blame him, though. They failed miserably as parents. All they gave him was a burden he was too young to understand or bear, and left with people that wanted him dead. They hung their heads low as new waves of tears came to their eyes. "We fucked up so bad," was their collective thought as they wept once more for the new wound in their hearts. Hinata and the others looked at the scene with a sense of pity. Well, more on the dragon's part than the former two. Both Kurama and Hinata thought they getting off a little too easy. Hinata especially thought they should be feeling a lot more pain than this. But part of her did feel some pain for the two. After all, if it weren't for these two, Naruto would not exist today. So they did at least one good thing before they screwed it all up. Kurama was in a similar position since he knew it would be a long time before Naruto ever let go of his hatred for them, if he ever did. He just hopes it's not at the end of his life again. Thoron was next to speak after a period of silence. "Naruto." Naruto turned to his mentor. "I believe you and the other two should listen to what both Hinata has to say to you about the elemental nations after your abrupt end." "This should be interesting," Mira said. "Man, to hear the experiences of another dearly departed loved one is such a magnificent perfume." Ichiya hummed, delighted to hear Hinata's story. Naruto turned to the girl in question, along with anyone else in the room. Hinata sighed before she began recounting her tale. "Well, after your execution, things got really bad for Konoha. When word got out that the village abused and executed the only son of the Yondaime, a lot of people were not happy. The village was split in two because of it. Those who felt guilty, a bit late for that in Naruto's mind, and those who did not care. The Kazekage, Gaara, the spring daimyo Koyuki, the waterfall leader Shibuki, the land of tea leader Jirocho, the entirety of Wave cut all ties with Konoha. They were all disgusted with not only your upbringing, but also that you were executed for doing your job. I would have simply let them rot and leave them to their own devices. Let trouble sleep where the trouble lies." Sting snorted. "Definitely," Rogue said. "The fire daimyo had to march down to the village after nearly drowning in angry letters from all the different countries that dissolved their treaty with us. He really let all of them have it as he ranted at them for their stupidity. Shoot, if this daimyo is anything like a lord or king, then I would have marched a whole army down there and wiped them out with no chance of escape," Lecter commented. "Fro thinks so too." Frosch agreed. He always agreed to everything. The civilian council was disbanded, and all of its members were executed and had all of their assets seized. The clan heads had to pay a hefty fine that depleted half of their income and savings combined. The shinobi elders were sent to a maximum prison. Danzo tried to fight back thinking this was his opportunity to take over, but Jiraiya and Tsunade killed him very easily. His root Anbu then went on the offensive against the village. It became a bloody massacre. No one knew who was friend or foe. Afterward, the fire daimyo wanted to know why Danzo wasn't watched more carefully if he was such a suspicious character, but Tsunade had no answer to give him, which pissed him off even more. He basically removed all power from the Hokage and made her a figurehead before he began calling all the shots for how the village ran. Wow, this guy did not let them off easily, did he? I say he did the right thing by putting them through the ringer, should have shut down their military forces just to see how they behave, Makarov said. Wouldn't have worked. Too many civilians in a city that size is asking for trouble, Gajeel said factually. He was a commander for the Rune Knights. He knew stuff like this. All of our former friends were in denial, and many of them blamed you for all the damage that was done to the village. The only ones who looked remorseful were Shikamaru, Choji, Lee, and Shino. Sasuke was still in a medically induced coma to keep an eye on him. I decided to fuck him over for what he did to you. I added some ingredients to the medicine he was being injected with that slowly killed his ability to produce sperm. Normally, the drugs he was being given were to keep him down, so no one knew what was happening to him until it was too late. By the time he was awake, his testicles were like a barren desert. Oof, that is a bummer. Not that I would care for some idiot who thinks he is worth a mountain of gold rather than a bag of copper. Zeref snorted in dry humor. Naruto stared at Hinata in shock. You mean you? She nodded with a smirk. Yup. I made that puny Uchiha the last one in every sense of that word. Well, the last one besides Itachi and that masked bastard claiming to be Madara. Hell, I even injected him with some special enzymes that permanently relaxed the muscles in his genitals so he could no longer get an erection. No children and no sex for that bastard ever again, though I was saving any poor girl or guy stuck with him from a life of disappointment. He really earned the title Runt of the Uchiha. Naruto could not help but roar in laughter. Everyone else joined soon after. Kurama was rolling on the floor and could feel his sides hurt from all the laughing. Take that, Uchiha Teme, the blonde thought. He seems pleased, Lily said with a smirk. Hinata then continued. I decided to go to Shizune to become her apprentice in the medical arts. She said I should go to Tsunade, but I told her I wanted nothing to do with that woman who could not do anything to save me. Plus, she was taking Sakura and Ino as her students, and I wanted nothing to do with those two either. She finally agreed and began teaching me about poisons and medical ninjutsu. At first, Tsunade said she was not ready to take a student, and Shizune took that personally. It made her question if Tsunade ever had faith in her abilities as a medic. When Tsunade tried to justify herself, Shizune left saying she would make me the most powerful medic that ever walked the elemental nations, surpassing even her and Mito Uzumaki. That was when a competition started between the two, which could produce the better student. It was also the start of their relationship deteriorating from that competition. Shame! I would have thought they would compete over something less idiotic, such as making a better student, Erza said with a sigh. Like what, eating strawberry cheesecake? Mira asked with a sly look. Shut it, Mira, retorted the knight. Thanks to my Byakugan and near-perfect chakra control, I excelled greatly in the medical arts. Then came my training in elemental manipulation. When Shizune tested my affinity, she was surprised I had a double affinity for water and wind. This finally explained why I was no good for Juken in its current state. The Juken was made for those with an earth affinity. It demanded someone sturdy and strong like a stone, but my nature demanded speed, flexibility, and adaptability. I decided to create my own style of Juken that complemented my two affinities to create a whole new way of using the Byakugan in combat. One day I was called by the Hyuga elders to the clan dojo. Apparently they wanted to test Hanabi's skill against me once again. I decided to humor them for a bit and agreed to it. Hanabi tried to weaken my resolve by talking about how pathetic you were, and she could have made a better wife for such a fool. That made me snap and forget about any restraint I was planning to show. I rushed right in and knocked off her feet in seconds and beat her to the ground until she was a bleeding mess. The whole clan was shocked. Some of the elders tried to intervene, but I knocked them to the ground with some powerful but deadly strikes to their groins. Hayashi was terrified by what I had just done. Pretty sure any man in their right mind would be terrified. That's our pride right there for some of us, Gildarts exclaimed. Pervert! Kana yelled as she smashed a bottle of liquor against his head. He would have ordered me to stand down, but my glare stopped all that. I told him I was done with this bullshit from him and the rest of this disgusting clan. I told them that the shy Hinata was dead and gone forever. They wanted me to be a cold-blooded Hyuga, and they were going to get it. Neji made a comment about me still being weak like the demon, and I countered by activating the seal on his forehead. The bastard screamed for a few minutes before I got bored and stopped. I told him that next time I wouldn't stop until he was dead on the floor and said the same thing for the rest. After that, they never got in my way again. The entire house was afraid of me. After a whole year, Shizune wanted me to sign the slug contract, but I told her I had a contract in mind. With that, we traveled to the remains of Uzushi-Ogakure. Like Kurama said, I was able to enter, thanks to your blood, in my system from our marriage, and found the contract to the Phoenix. We kept it a secret from everyone, and I worked on learning the super strength technique that Tsunade had developed, and learning elemental mastery and senjutsu from my summons. This went on for another 7 or so years. By the time I was in my 20s, I had become the most powerful member of my Eiji group. I had mastered my Seiji mode in 3 years, and I was stronger than both Jiraiya and Tsunade combined. This was one of the things that led to Shizune finally cutting all ties to Tsunade. Tsunade refused to admit defeat, and Shizune had enough of her and quit her job and moved in with me at an apartment in the village. At this point in time, I was in Anbu and captain of my own squad. Kumo and Iwa had joined with Oto to invade Konoha once again. During the last battle in the second invasion, I fought Sasuke after he left for Orochimaru again years earlier. He proclaimed the same bullshit from before, talking about killing all Konoha and then going after his brother before he would revive his clan. He said was gonna make sure I was gonna be one of his wives as a way to stick to you in the afterlife. I beat the little bastard to the ground without too much trouble, since he overestimated his power far too much. His curse mark form proved to be troublesome, but I handled it easily. I ended up beating the little bastard to the ground before I smashed his face into a million. Should have smashed it more than a million. Lisanna scowled. She did not like the Uchiha at all. My, so testy, Lisanna. Mira smiled. Believe me, I am nowhere near testy, she responded to her sister. Jiraiya, Tsunade, Kakashi, and Guy fought Orochimaru, the Sandaime Tsuchikage, and the Yondaime Raikage. I fought against their Jinchuriki later on in the invasion. I was being pushed to my limits even with my Sage mode, but then I unlocked this purple chakra. The chakra of Hamura Otsutsuki. It gave me the edge I desperately needed. I used my new power combined with Sage mode to fight off their Biju forms, and I managed to free the tailed beasts and send them back to the summoning realm, but before I took a sample of their chakras for the final plan we concocted. Something that pissed off the Kagis of the enemy alliance. Without their Biju, they were forced to retreat, but they were not done. They hired the Akatsuki to destroy the leaf and get back at me. Itachi especially wanted my head for killing Sasuke. The leaf knew it would not win easily and managed to convince Suna, Taka, Spring, and Kiri to help in the war. The daimyo even sent an army of his elite samurai. I bet that rolled over rather well since you have several different countries gunning for you, Lecter said with a smile. That was some siege. Must have been devastating, Mavis said. Then the third invasion occurred about 6 months later. The battle between the two forces was bloody and destructive. I fought Itachi, Pain, and Conan at the same time. I managed to kill Conan and Itachi, but I was nearly drained. Pain saw this and would have killed me if Shizune had not jumped in and taken the blow for me. When I saw my master die in front of me, I snapped. My chakra level spiked to ungodly levels. I began absorbing chakra from all around me, and I absorbed the chakra of all the Biju I had collected over the years. I achieved what Kurama and you had wanted. I gained a third eye on my head, the Rinne Sharingan. He was right. I was the reincarnation of Kaguya Otsutsuki. I had the power of the literal mother of all chakra. Pain stood no chance against me, and I defeated him after a long fight. I destroyed his eyes so no one could ever use them again. I appeared over the enemy leaders, and both sides were shocked at my new appearance. The enemy Kage would not stand down and told Madara to make his move. Madara appeared in the same clothes as he did when he tried to take Kurama. That same vile orange mask pissed me off to no end. He used the Edo Tensei to revive the previous Jinchuriki, along with an army of shinobi from Legends. Some of these guys included the 7 swordsmen of the Mist, bloodline wielders, my mother, and the Uchiha clan. He tried to resurrect you but was confused when it did not work along with everyone else. That was when I knew you were alive somewhere, and that gave me hope that you were happy somewhere away from all this. I used my new powers to wipe out his zombie army and barreled right after him. I managed to rip one of his arms and his Sharingan eye. I managed to damage his mask to reveal Madara, or Tobi as he called himself, was actually Obito Uchiha, one of your ex-father's students. Minato and Kushina gasped in horror. He tried to use the Gedo Mazo with the little chakra he had of the tailed beasts. He only had the 1, 3, and 7 tails. Everyone else was back home in their respective realm. Kurama was dead for good because the seal of the Shinigami made sure he would stay in the afterlife. The worthless statue did not work properly, since he did not have the proper eyes to control it, and that gave me the opportunity to destroy it. I created the biggest Gudadama I could produce and fired it at the statue. It was obliterated instantly along with Obito and Zetsu, and freeing the remaining Biju before I sent them home as well. Orochimaru was finally killed in the final battle against his teammates, but so were Jiraiya and Tsunade. The Raikage was barely alive with 1 arm and leg. The Tsuchikage was bisected courtesy of Kakashi and Guy entering the battlefield. Kisame was dead from a fight with the rookies. They all died fighting him with Lee, using all 8 gates to decide the fight. The other member had died earlier on in the years by one of us. Sasori died to Sakura and Chiyo, and Deidara died in a fight with Kakashi trying to blow himself up with him and failed. Hidan and Kakuzu died in a fight against Teams 7 and 10 in the aftermath of Asuma's death. So much death, all because of petty revenge and anger. Makarov sighed. If only they had realized their mistakes earlier, then it might not have happened, Laxus said in agreement. In the end, the 3 enemy villages were split between the other 3, and they decided I should be Hokage. I accepted it since I promised to make your dream a reality and change the village the way it was supposed to be. I even changed my name to Hinata Uzumaki because you were the only man that would ever touch me in my life. I changed the Hokage monument to have Hashirama, Tobirama, you, and myself on it. I explained that the first 2 Hokages should honored for building the village. You inspired me to become who I became, and you were the true hero of the war. Myself was so that people could remember what hard work and dedication can lead someone to. That is about it. I reigned as Hokage for about 50 years before stepping down for someone else. After that, I traveled the world helping whoever I could before passing away peacefully when I turned 125. Wow, talk about wisdom for one's age. She must have been bored out of her mind if she was that old, Natsu said, stunned. Natsu, that was rude. Apologize, Erza ordered him. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry, he squeaked out. Naruto, Kushina, Minato, Kurama, and the others just stared in awe. Hinata had truly come a long way from who she used to be. Naruto could not have been more proud of his queen. She proved everyone wrong, and she rose to heights even he did not think were possible. He ran up to her, giving a passionate kiss before grabbing her by the waist and spinning her around. You are amazing, my queen. You passed even my wild expectations. You truly are magnificent, just like I said you would be. Hinata just laughed and gave him a kiss that he returned with equal passion. The dragons let the couple enjoy their moment before speaking again. Naruto, as you can see, your mate grew to become a very powerful warrior. You were her symbol of strength, and what helped her motivate herself to grow stronger than anyone else in her world could ever imagine. Naruto frowned before setting Hinata down and looking at Theron. The person that motivated her was Naruto Uzumaki. I have not been that person in a very long time. I am Acnologia. I am no longer the person she— Ouch! Naruto was cut off from his rant when Hinata smacked him over the head. Ha! So even he's not immune to rightful punishment. Gajeel smirked. Serves him right. Luckily, I don't have to worry about that from Levy. She's too sweet, he said. Oh, yeah? Levy asked, causing that same smirk Gajeel had on his face to vanish just as quickly as it came. Gah! Ah, shit! What the hell, Hinata? Hinata just looked annoyed. I hit you because you were spilling some bullshit again. You tell me you are Acnologia? So what? I told you no matter what happens, I would follow you into the depths of hell. If you become the bringer of evil itself, I would stand by your side till the end of time. Do you hear me? I love you. Whether you are Acnologia or Naruto Uzumaki, doesn't matter. I will always love you no matter till the end of time. Bacchus cried in his gag, his guildmates looking at the restraints just to make sure it was secure. They were men, and men did not cry like girls. Naruto just looked in awe at the girl in front of him. How can she still say all that? She doesn't even know everything he has done, yet he can tell none of it would change her opinion of him. She would always love him. All he could do, just look at her in amazement, before giving her a hug and whispering, "Thank you," again and again. Hinata just smiled and returned the hug. Thoron just smiled before continuing. See, my son, even your queen sees the good in you. You may say that you have no good in you, but you are wrong, and your actions in the last few years have proven this. Naruto looked at him questionably. Even the readers were looking at the screen with similar looks on their faces. Let's begin with the first thing you did. Remember when you found Mavis Vermilion? Wait, when did this happen? You never said he knew me, Mavis said as she looked to Makarov. The old man gave a shrug. What? We knew the subject would surface again. Why waste the time to explain it to you when you'd find out in the story? Makarov responded. Keeping secrets from the first master now are we. How cruel, Makarov. Mavis chided. She was orphaned on her island, and you could have left her on that island. But you didn't. You helped raise her for the 10 years you two were together until she walked off to her own adventures. It was thanks to you that Mavis became the great maid she was and brought about the creation of Fairy Tale. Then there was the battle with that human, Gildarts Clive. You could have left him there to die, but you went out of your way to heal him and take him to the nearby town. Your actions with the Dragon Slayers are another showing of your compassion. Finally, do I have to explain your actions on Tenru Island? Oh, I didn't know he helped me out as well. The Acnologia that I fought just left me to die after I fought it for 10 minutes, Gildart said in surprise. Huh, what do you know? He has more honor than our Acnologia. Erza complimented. Daddy's girl. Gajeel laughed out. What was that? Erza asked as she glared at him. Nothing, Gajeel said as he looked away. Naruto just stared at Thoron in deep thought. Had he really been that merciful and caring without him realizing it? He saved Mavis because he sensed the potential within her. He saw greatness that was begging to come out. It was the same thing he saw within Hinata. But there was something else in her. Something that he had not seen in a long time. He thought back to the fight with Gildarts. He let Gildarts live because no one had challenged him in such a long time. He awakened a spark within him, even if it was only an instant. He let him live because he wanted to see if the human could become stronger from this encounter. Dick move, man, dick move, Gildarts grumbled. Oh, so what? He awakened the beast. That was just great. Tenro? He did not even need to remember. Those humans entertained him, plain and simple. He saw the potential in those humans and tested them for that reason. Plus, his daughter was part of the guild, so he had to show some restraint. Which one? If I didn't know better, I would say he knew of one, but thought something happened to the other, Wendy said in thought. Maybe it seems possible. Levy thought in agreement. She was one of the dragon slayers he checked on from time to time. Okay, so it was me. I didn't think of that possibility, Wendy said in a bit of surprise as her other self's picture appeared, along with Naruto's own, and showed the similarities between them. It wasn't much of a difference in her appearance, but they were there when they were pointed out. It's not that different than the current you, but I can see that the other version of you has his eye shape as well as his nose. The skin tone must be from your mother as well as the hair. I can't see where the eyes came from, though, as I'm at a loss as to why they are brown. Maybe a grandparent or something? Mavis said as the pictures of all 4 grandparents appeared, and then were promptly crossed out as a viable option for her different looks. Never mind then, she sighed. She was totally stumped at that one. He felt an obligation to do this, since he had a debt to repay to the dragons. The one he watched the most was his daughter for obvious reasons. She was his flesh and blood, and unfortunately was the youngest of the children to become a dragon slayer. She was only 5 when Grandine left, like the other dragons did. He even made small talk with her as she grew up in Kate's shelter. So I know him, but not all that well. That's strangely satisfying, Wendy said to herself. Well, at least he tried to be there for you, Natsu said kindly. Part of him wondered why she became so attached to him after just a few visits. Did she know about him? Who he really was? It would explain why, when he arrived at Tenro, she was not scared like the rest. She was confused, but also happy. She was happy that the first thing he did when they met again is attack and not give any explanation. His daughter was really weird, just like her mother, he supposed. That caused most of the readers to laugh at the commentary as the blue-haired girl blushed in embarrassment. Hinata then looked at Thoron with curiosity in her eyes. Thoron-sama, can you show me an image of my daughter? I would like to see how she has grown up. Thoron just smiled before turning to the chronicler, who projected an image of her daughter. Hinata immediately squealed at how adorable her daughter looked. Even Kushina had hearts in her eyes. Hinata looked back to her beloved with stars in her eyes. What's her name, Naruto-kun? She asked. Wendy Marvell. Wendy, like the wind. A fitting name. She's beautiful, Naruto. She is our daughter, of course. She would be beautiful. Wendy was almost like a lobster with how bright her face was. It was amazing she hadn't blushed into flames due to it. The others simply laughed at her expense. She had such wonderful friends, didn't she? You can note the sarcasm of the comment. Naruto? Naruto turned to the chronicler. The time has come to explain why we have called you here. Naruto looked at the dragon seriously. You know I am the son of the dragon god of time, Dialga, correct? Naruto nodded. Well, as you know, I have the capacity to look into the future from time to time, although they are just glimpses into them. Visions, really, but they are very probable to happen. In my vision, I see our world 14 years in the future. In this future, the entire continent is a wasteland and humans run in fear every day and are nearly extinct. The reason? Dragons have run over the world and rule over it with an iron fist. This must be about the Eclipse Gate, Natsu said. I think things took a turn from bad to good, Gihi. Gajeel chuckled. So we'll have help during the battle against the dragons, thank God. Those guys were made of some tough stuff. Sting sighed. There may be more to it than what we originally thought of, Rogue said. It's a given. Add an element of unforeseen circumstances, and then something changes. Laxus sighed. A new light burst into existence before it cleared to show the members of the Oración Seis Crime Sorcière standing in a group as they looked around in confusion. Jelal! Cobra, Serrano ni, Yukino, Natsu, Urza. Yeah, you get the gist of it. We are so not going through the whole spiel of things. Once the group had been filled in, completely thanks to Mavis not wanting anything to be left out, the group sat down in their own seats with a snack table bursting into existence for their continued comfort. Naruto looked in shock. None of the dragons he knew would ever do that. Sure, there was Kyurem, but even that sadistic ice freak had a code of honor. Who would dare do this? To answer your question, none of these dragons are our allies. These were man-eating dragons of the Dark Army from 400 years ago. Okay, so it's likely he'll appear to help. I won't complain. The more help we get, the better, and I'm all for it. I couldn't even dent the scales of that rock monster I was fighting, Cobra said with a sigh. I know, right? It took me teaming up with Atlas Flame and using his flames to enhance my power to even knock Mother Glare out. I didn't even break the scales of that dragon. Natsu sighed. So much for us dragon slayers, huh? We're a bunch of jokes compared to this guy. Cobra snickered out with Natsu, nodding in agreement. Okay, we get it. You guys are all weak. Now can we get to the story? Angel said. Naruto was shocked. But how? I thought most of those beasts were killed at the climax of the war. How are they still alive? Because they came through a portal in time. Naruto froze at that. What? 7 years from now, an eclipse gate is opened. Someone will try to open a portal to 400 years in the past to kill Zeref before he became an immortal, and by extension stop you. But it backfired. The portal was opened, but instead of going in, something came out. 10,000 dragons came out of the portal and invaded all of Fiore and then the rest of the world. Wait. This was what the king told us just before the 7 dragons appeared. This is what he left out. I knew he didn't tell us something. Didn't I tell you, Rogue, that he forgot to mention something to us? Sting said excitedly. Okay, I think we get the picture. Minerva scowled. Naruto was just standing in shock at what he just heard, but he could not deny that what he said made sense. During the war, several dragons from both sides disappeared in the conflict through a portal in the sky. He always wondered what happened to those dragons. He also growled that someone was trying to use one of Zeref's magics against him. Nothing good can come out of time travel. It always ends badly for someone. So you want me to go stop this invasion and destroy this gate 7 years from now? Thoran shook his head. Who we get back up? Natsu cheered excitedly. Ha! These dragons won't know what hit them, Laxus smirked. We want more than that, Naruto. It's time you get rid of this guilt you have been carrying around. Zeref will soon begin his destruction of the world, and you are the only one that can stop him. Let's not forget about the Dark Army and the other malevolent beings that still linger around the world. This is an opportunity for you. You said you still feel responsible for your crimes against the dragons, then help the humans. They will need your guidance. The Dragon Slayers need your guidance. You are the only one who can help them. Wait, does that mean we get some training? Natsu asked eagerly. What, they're so lucky, Wendy pouted. Naruto shook his head. They would never agree to me helping them. The humans would sooner die or try to kill me before accepting my help. Then you make them believe in you. He turned to Hinata, and she just smiled at him. Naruto-kun, you have always done the impossible. You have inspired those around you to go beyond what they are capable of. You did it for me, Wave, Gaara, Suna, Taka, Shibuki, and many other places. Please don't let this chance slip away from you. If not for you, do it for our daughter. She deserves to live a life full of happiness with her loved ones. Please, Naruto-kun, do it for our beautiful baby girl. Wah ha ha ha! It's so touching. Again. Oh, come on, you've got to be kidding me! How'd he get out this time? He was tied up and everything. Tie his bindings tighter. Use magic suppressants as well. That way he can't just pry them off. I'll use my plant magic to hold him down as well. Naruto looked down in thought. Could he do it? Could he really let go of all his guilt and start living again? He imagined Wendy's happy face with all her nakama, falling in love with a boy, walking her down the alley, and watching her have children of her own. He remembered what Kurama said of never letting the hatred consume him, to always press forward and never give up. Then he remembered something else. Some very important words from the past. Insert song, Naruto Os Decision. I said it, and I never go back on my word. That's my ninja way. A person is truly strong when they have something precious to protect. Never forget who you are, Naruto. I am proud to call you my vessel, Kit. You are the only one I call worthy enough to have earned my respect and trust. That's why I am proud to call you my successor and my son. Good luck in the next life, Kit. I am proud to call you my son, Naruto. You are the first to learn magic from a dragon. You are the first of your kind, the first dragon slayer, the dragon slayer to the dragon king himself. Now go and make me proud. Wow, so impressed a lot of powerful beings, Angel said. Don't grieve, Naruto. I don't blame you for what you did. Remember, I will always love you. I will fight to the bitter end with you, Naruto, because I love you. I love you just as much as Anna does. You two complete me. Take a guess as to who said that. You have great potential within you. I can feel it. You are meant for great things, and I will help your journey by setting you on the right road. I promise to be there for you, Mavis. Warred? Mavis said excitedly. No, it was Naruto, Zeref said as he looked closely at the side note. I promise to save you, Naruto ni. This is the age of magic, the age of miracles coming to life. So please don't give up on humanity yet. I know Fairy Tail will save you from the darkness. I swear it. It's the promise of a lifetime. Don't be a stranger out there. Everyone needs someone to talk about their troubles to, even a stubborn brute like yourself. So if you ever need a drink and someone to talk to, my doors will always be open. Gray and Leon said together. They knew because she liked to indulge herself in alcohol from time to time. Please look after my daughter. The burden she has is a great one, and I fear she won't be ready. Please help my darling, Lucy. Mom! Lucy exclaimed in shock. Can't believe he met her, Natsu said with wide eyes as well. I promise to always look after you. I will make sure you live a full life and be able to have the life I was denied. I promise to always protect you, Wendy. I will always love you, my darling daughter. Oh, that was sweet of him, Mira said with a smile. Naruto Uzumaki always kept his promises. He had broken so many before. But it was time to change that. He will not break a promise to Hinata, not to his first queen, especially when it is about their daughter. Naruto looked at Hinata before smiling and giving her a kiss. He turned to the dragons. I accept your terms. For too long I have been in a state of self-pity, and it's time to change. I will not allow those savage dragons to destroy the world. I will help those weak humans. I will destroy Zeref and all of his followers. I also will not let those savages shit on the legacy that you and the other dragons have left for me to live up to. I am Naruto D. Marvel. I am the first of the Dragon Slayers. I am Acnologia. I am the Dragon King. There's that spark of life, Laxus snorted. Better than the self-brooding one he had before. Cobra snickered out. Everyone smiled with pride at Naruto's choice. Hinata gave a peck on the cheek. Naruto asked what he needed to do first. Well, first of all, we will return you to Mount Zonia. From there, you have 7 years to retrain yourself, explained Thoron. Naruto looked at him blankly. Don't give me that look. You have not trained in over 400 years. You are rusty and need to get back in shape. Plus, this gives you time to master all of your powers. And I do mean all of them, understand. Naruto growled, knowing exactly what he meant. But he needed to have all his powers in check to fight Zeref, and maybe that power will give him the edge he'll need against him. Must be one heck of a power if he's grumbling about it, Lucy murmured to herself. Naruto sighed before nodding. The chronicler smiled sadly. Unfortunately, it is time to say goodbye, Naruto. Naruto looked broken, but knew this would come to an end eventually. Just like all good things, he began to see everyone fade. Kurama looked at Naruto. Naruto, you have made me a proud fox. I would not expect anything else from my chosen vessel. Remember to never lose yourself and keep moving forward. Don't ever give up. Do me proud, Kit. And with that, Kurama, the Kyuubi no Yoko, disappeared. Naruto turned to Minato and Kushina. The three just look at each other in silence. Wonder how that'll turn out. Gajeel sighed. If it turned into a fight, he'd just ignore it. Look, Naruto began to speak, but was cut off when the two hugged him, which left him dumbfounded. You don't have to say anything, Minato said. Even if you hate us, we don't mind. We deserve it for what we did to you. But know this one truth, Naruto, Kushina said. We will always love you, the two said in unison before vanishing. He was left completely speechless on what to say or do. That was nice of them. Erza smiled. He turned to the last person, Hinata. He tried to speak, but he choked up any response, which made Hinata smile. She reached into her pouch and took out some items. A blue headband with a leaf symbol engraved on a slab of metal on the cloth. A black scroll with a red swirl. A necklace with a green jewel. The last item was a picture of her in her Hokage robes. He looked at her questioningly. She smiled softly. Mementos to remember her by, a sweet and final gift to her beloved, Ichiya said softly. The scroll contains some surprises for you and Wendy. The necklace was yours to begin with, so I am returning it to its rightful owner. The picture is for you to have on hand. Plus, I am sure Wendy will like a picture of me. There is an album in the scroll along with my gift for you. My headband is for you to have something to remember me. You wore my blood against Neji, so I hope you would wear my headband the same way. How sweet, like a knight accepting a token from his beloved maiden, Mavis said happily. Naruto smiled. Naruto, promise me you won't give in to despair again. Promise you will help those that need it. Please look after Wendy. Please be a loving parent to her. Every girl needs her daddy to be there for her. I can tell you found love again and that you have other children, Naruto-kun, and I'm glad you found happiness again with someone. I know you lost them, but you shouldn't let that stop you from loving someone. So promise me you won't be alone. Promise me you will attempt to find love again. You need it, Naruto. I want you to be happy, so please do your best. Hinata, I promise to do my best. It's all that one can hope for when they have nothing left of their old life, Cobra said seriously. It's always hard to say goodbye when the one you love most has to leave you. Wendy sniffed. Well, we're lucky that everyone we're close to is together. Kana cheered. For now, was the unspoken comment. Hinata shares one final kiss. I love you, Naruto-kun. And never forget I will always watch over you. I love you too, Hinata, my lavender queen, my goddess of the moon. I will love you for all eternity. Hinata continued to smile until she faded away. Naruto let a few tears fall as he let it sink in they were gone. Gone, but not forgotten. They will always be with me, he thought. He turned to the dragons. End of theme. Thank you, Chronicler. The Aqua Dragon smiled. I will see you soon. Good luck, young Dragon King. He too soon faded. Naruto, remember, no matter what, I will always be with you along with the other kings guiding you. Just look inside yourself. Never forget. Remember who you are. You are my son and the one true king. Farewell, my son, and make me proud." Thoron glowed a bright green light that expanded throughout the void. "Such proud proclamations." "I promise, father." Everything went black for Naruto after that. When Naruto opened his eyes again, he was on Mount Zonia again as the sun was setting over the horizon. He sees in his hands the gifts Hinata left him with. He puts on the necklace and seals away the scroll and photo within a pocket dimension he wields. He looks at the headband and smiles. "I promise I won't ever forget." He ties it around his headband and looks up into the crimson-orange horizon. The eyes that were filled with rage, emptiness, grief, and sorrow now had a fire ignited within them. A fire he did not think was there anymore. Acnologia was Naruto D. Marvel once again, and this time nothing was going to stop him. And that is the end of the chapter. "Who's next?" Zeref asked. Urza raised her hand. "I'll take it," she said as she grasped the book from him, only for it to shoot out of her hand and smack Cobra in his face. "Ow, that freaking hurt!" he yelled out. "Looks like we have our next reader, man," Ichiya said.
Okay, sadly chapter is over, and if you enjoyed, just leave a like and subscribe with a post notification so when the chapter is ready you will be notified. Okay, see you next one, bye.